Right. Let's get the stream started in here. Some music. Let's stream on Discord. Alright, everything seems to be working. Amazing. Beautiful. All right, let's go. Should I just get right into the speech? I think I'll let's see if there's any memes on my Discord to go over. Oh, there might be. Cute kitties. Okay. We all know who posted those. Aww. I wonder what kind of cats actually enjoy, like, going into the snow. I've never met those cats. I don't believe it. Oh, there's the Meitei show that Pandart suggested I listen to, that band. Okay, Magic Trill linked this a while ago. Federal Reserve, coordinated central bank action to enhance the provision of US dollar liquidity. What? And then you got the crypto people being like, what? What does that mean? Please put it in simpler terms. Is it mooning? Is it mooning or what? Yeah, money's being printed, I guess. What the fuck is this article? What the fuck is this language from this article? The United States has deep concerns that China might try to position itself as a peacemaker in the war in Ukraine by promoting a ceasefire. White House's national security spokesman John Kirby said. Did John Kirby actually say that, like, outright? That's fucked up. Like, I understand, like, in the grand game of geopolitics, the US wants to be the big player, and even if it's in the interest of the Ukrainian people, it doesn't want someone to you know, compete with that. But that is fucked. It's fucked up to say, to be saying this. It's fucked up to even be thinking that, but, like, I don't expect better. I just kind of expected them to at least be better in the language used. Let's check it out. Jerusalem Post, John Kirby, 5 days ago, and it is what China is doing. That, like, John Kirby's concerns are well founded. They say has deep concerns that China may try to position itself as a peacemaker. John Kirby said on Friday. Kirby told reporters at a briefing that any ceasefire at this time would not lead to just and lasting peace between Ukraine and Russia. Okay, I guess if that's okay with context, with the full context, that makes the quote better. Which, okay, with full context, I actually sympathize with what he's saying, because that's kind of what I've been saying as well. China is positioning itself to be the peacemaker. It serves its image, it serves its geopolitics, but the peace that China is proposing is not a peace that is going to be satisfactory for Ukraine. Not in the current state of things. So, yeah. Alright, let's go right into the Macron's speech, actually. Let me... That track was pretty cool, actually. Alright. Do we get picture-in-picture? Yes, we do. Perfect. Okay, time to be a translator, I guess.
Président, merci de nous recevoir à l'Élysée.
So just for context, for anyone joining in, which I guess no one is, it's not the right time. Just for context, this is Macron's response to the whole debacle around forcing through this retirement reform, and specifically forcing it through using the 49.3 clause, which allows it to go through without a vote. Parliament had a motion for a vote of no confidence that failed. And so this is Macron's response to the failure of that vote of no confidence and the discontent of the French people. Because, need I remind you, whether you agree or disagree, the reality is over 70% of French people don't want this law. It is extremely unpopular. So even though the parliament has not represented the will of the people in that sense, well, let's see what Macron has to say about it. Clearly, we awaited some kind of... we were awaiting a response from him. Let's put in subtitles if we can. No, we cannot. Okay. Well, so be it. Okay. Well, so be it. So yeah, we've got that's where we're at. We're seeing Macron's response to the, especially specifically the unrest. There were impromptu, unofficial, unapproved protests right after the failure of the vote of no confidence, which, I remind you, it failed only by 9 votes. The law went through, but by the tiniest margin when it comes to French politics. And it's particularly impressive that, or crazy, should I say, that it was that close, because if the vote of no confidence had succeeded, Macron's government would be kicked out of power. That is what the vote of no confidence means for French politics in this situation. Let me try something, by the way. Let me try something, actually. I've been wanting to try something different with the... Okay. Do it like this. I think I'm doing something different with the hit to screen. And then move the display capture up here. Oh no. There we go. Okay. Like, I don't think we need the... I don't think we need the... I want you to admire my beautiful face. That's what I want happening here. So let's do it like this. Boom. Okay, that way Sophie gets some privacy too. Perfect. Excellent. All right, let's get right into the memes.
Avec Julien Bugier. Bonjour Julien.
Bonjour Marie-Sophie, bonjour Monsieur le Président. Vous savez que votre parole aujourd'hui est particulièrement attendue.
C'est la toute première fois que vous vous exprimez depuis le recours au 49.3 et depuis que cette réforme des retraites a été adoptée par le Parlement. Elle est très contestée dans la rue. Première question donc, est-ce que ce texte entrera en application comme prévu au 1er?
Okay, so they're just presenting the situation. It's the first time that Macron is speaking since invoking the 49.3 motion. People have been awaiting his reaction to the whole situation, like I was already saying. And so the first question is, will the law be still going through as planned, despite the discontent, despite the contestation?
Septembre.
Bonjour et bienvenue. Je suis heureux de
Hello and welcome. I'm happy to reply to your questions. This text will continue its democratic path.
Après des mois de concertation, il a été ensuite porté par le gouvernement qui l'a modifié après ces concertations au Parlement.
The text was drafted by the government, who then modified it after months and months of debate.
Il a donné lieu à 175 heures de débat.
It led to 175 hours of debate. By the way, this is a very dishonest representation. This is why y'all need me to like analyze this. The 175 hours of debate is not because the debate was in good faith. It's because the the left coalition decided to try to filibuster the discussion of the law, but they introduced 1,700 amendments to the law that each and every single one of them had to be discussed and debated in Parliament. That's why it lasted 175 hours. They were stalling for time. Literally, they were just throwing a wrench anywhere they could in the process. So it's particularly ironic that Macron would now present that as if that was a wholesome democratic political process. Sure, on paper it looks great. The law was hotly debated, and everyone got to speak out about the problems, etc., etc. But if you know what actually happened, this is absolute bullshit.
C'est le texte issu du chemin parlementaire, enrichi par le parlementaire, qui a été adopté dans la commission mixte paritaire, puis.
And so he's saying it's a text that was approved by Parliament, that went through the Parliament, that was went through the parliamentary commission, and so on and so forth. Once again, Macron forced the text through without a parliamentary vote. The vote that happened was for a vote of no confidence against the government, not a vote on whether the text of law would have passed. Because Macron knows very well, through normal democratic process, this law would never have passed.
Voté par le Sénat, et en effet.
Voted by the Senate. Okay. That's probably the one part of the democratic process that indeed happened normally. That is true. The Senate did approve of the text.
L'Assemblée, suite à l'utilisation de l'article 1049.3 et donc par un vote d'une motion de censure contre le gouvernement qui a échoué. Il est aujourd'hui devant le Conseil constitutionnel.
So now he is referring to the 49.3, and he indeed presents it as and it is part of the French institutions. It is part of the Fifth Republic and the French democracy. Indeed, the vote of no confidence against the government failed, which means the text has passed the democratic process the way it was set up in the French government. And now he's going to talk about the Constitutional Court, or Council specifically, would be the more specific translation. Before the Americans just think of it as the Constitutional Court.
Donc, il faut maintenant attendre que le Conseil constitutionnel se prononce, et c'est à l'issue de sa décision que j'aurai à promulguer un texte, et donc qui permettra de faire évoluer les choses pour nos.
So he mentions this is particularly important because both Marine Le Pen and Mélenchon have filed appeals to the Constitutional Council. The Constitutional Council reviews French law before it's drafted into law and verifies that it is constitutional or not. It's supposed to be an apolitical body. It's supposed to just study the constitutionality, the legality of the law in a sense. And that is basically the last vetting stage of the law on whether it's going to go in or not. What Macron isn't saying here, basically, he's presenting justifications. He's saying that to him, this was a democratic process and part of the intended workings of the institutions. By only mentioning the constitutional approval as the next step and talking about the law continuing its normal path to being drafted into effect. Well, what he's actually saying is once the Constitutional Council approves of the law, it's game on, it's in, we're doing it.
Tenez-vous à cette date du 1er septembre. Tenez-vous à cette date.
Okay, she's asking specifically because she did ask in her original question, will he hold on to the date of the 1st of September as the date of effect for the law? So he didn't really mention any timeline, so she's asking again for clarification.
Je pense que pour que les choses rentrent en place, à la fois pour que d'ici à la fin de l'année, pour près de 2 millions de nos
I think that in order for things to
ils puissent avoir leur pension qui commence à être augmentée, environ 600 € par an en moyenne pour ces 1,8 million. Pour que, en effet, on commence à décaler l'âge légal de 3 mois par an progressivement et qu'on accélère l'augmentation du nombre de trimestres à travailler jusqu'à 43 ans.
So he's saying, I think that in order to make sure that people get the benefits of the law, because it is true, this is something that hasn't been that probably hasn't been seen especially by foreigners who've just seen the unrest and the discontent around raising the minimum age for retirement. One of the big parts of the law, and the reason why the law does actually have some level of support in France, given that retired people are the biggest active voter base in France. Well, it's that the law raises retirement pensions for all people who are already in retirement. That is Macron's voter base, core voter base. It is people who are in retirement, and he clearly is appealing to them. So he's saying he wants to make sure they get the extra money as fast as possible, basically. He also mentions that he wants to make since the path to the 2 years change to minimum retirement age is going to be progressive. He just described it's going to be basically putting off the minimum retirement age by 3 months every year. He wants to get started as soon as possible.
À horizon 2027. Eh bien, il faut que ça rentre en vigueur d'ici à la fin de l'année. Mais maintenant,
He wants the full effect of the law to be in place by 2027. So he's saying it needs to happen this year to fit his plan. Hello, man. Can you speak Italian? No. All I know is Bella Principessa from that movie. I forgot the name of that movie. It was a really beautiful movie. I did sing Don Giovanni in school in music class. Don Giovanni, a cena teco, mi invitasti e son venuto. And I don't remember the rest. I'm sorry. But welcome to the stream, Upaz. Hope you enjoyed. We're going over French politics. I live in France, so I feel directly concerned by it. And I don't know if you've followed what's been happening over the past couple months, but basically, Macron has been adamant about introducing his reform of the retirement system in France. The main problem being that Macron wants to raise minimum retirement age from 62 to 64, which is extremely unpopular among the French people. The French people have I think the approval rating of the law is like between 20 and 30%. Macron has used one of the tools of the Fifth Republic of the Constitution that allows the majority party in Parliament to force a law through. That allows the government, actually specifically, to force a law through without a vote. And the only response that the parliament has is to attempt a motion for a vote of no confidence, meaning that they can try to kick out the whole government. That vote failed yesterday by 9 votes. It was the day before yesterday. It was on Monday. By 9 votes, it was very, very close. Macron almost lost his entire government to this very, very aggressive strategy with this law. So now we've been awaiting this. Now is his response to the unhappy and disappointed French people, the people who do support him, the other politicians, etc., etc. This is the first time he's giving an interview, talking on TV since this whole debacle, since last week, basically, when he ordered the 49.3 forcing through of the law. This is a very important kind of moment for contemporary French politics. We're covering. I'm translating it as we go, so you don't need to speak French to follow along. And I'm giving some analysis since I've been following the situation pretty closely. Tu navi per mari. Hey, Ternit, how are you doing?
au moment où je vous parle, il faut attendre la décision du Conseil.
Alors, on va parler de la crise sociale.
Okay, so going back to what he was saying, he mentions the... so he was talking about how the... Here, let me open this up. I think the lighting's going to be better. Yeah, that's actually nicer. So he was talking about how the... he has this timeline. He wants the full effect of the law to come into play by 2027. But he reminds he's still the law is still waiting approval from the Constitutional Council. Not even real-time translation. I can try, but it's really, really hard for me to even hear the what he's saying over my own voice, and I haven't really trained it. But I can try a little bit.
Dans notre pays qui est forte. On va parler de la crise politique évidemment à l'Assemblée nationale et de ce qui s'est passé. D'abord, je voudrais vous faire.
We're going to talk about the political crisis in our country. First of all, I want you to.
La foule n'a pas de légitimité face au peuple qui s'exprime à travers les élus.
First of all, I want you to elaborate concerning some of the things you've said in Parliament that were very shocking to a lot of people. And he quotes Macron. Macron said that the people. Here, let me rewind it actually to make sure I get the quote right.
Vous faire réagir sur des propos que vous avez tenus qui ont pu choquer certains. C'était hier devant les parlementaires. Vous avez dit la foule n'a pas de légitimité face au peuple qui s'exprime à travers les élus.
The crowd has no legitimacy in the face of the people being expressing themselves through their elected. That is fucked up. I have to say once again, like even if you think that this change through the retirement age was a necessary evil, etc., there is no way you can have that much of a disdain for what actually happened to try to say that kind of thing. Basically, what the vote of no confidence showed is that isn't that the will of the people is being represented by the deputies, by the parliamentaries. What it shows is that the parliamentaries, well, let's say it's the will of the people. It's that the will of the people is not willing to go down the path of the ultimatum, which is the vote of no confidence. But there is a reason why Macron did not submit this law project through parliamentary vote normally. It's because it has no chance of passing. There are no deputies outside of his party, almost no deputies outside his party that want their name on this law. It's political suicide. When you have, I don't remember if it was 73 or 78% of the French people who don't want to raise the retirement age. So this is just disdainful and this is and dishonest. But let's see what Macron says to justify his statement.
Est-ce à dire à vos yeux que le mécontentement qui s'exprime dans les rues aujourd'hui, les manifestants sont illégitimes?
Non.
So the journalist elaborates. Does this mean that in your eyes, the protesters, the people fighting against this in the streets, are illegitimate?
Pas du tout, et merci de me permettre de clarifier.
No, not at all. And thank you for helping me clarify this.
On subit des agressions inacceptables depuis
Wait,
Les
sorry.
rues aujourd'hui, les manifestants sont illégitimes.
I can't do real time.
Merci de me permettre de clarifier cela, parce que j'ai dit des choses hier précises à des parlementaires qui ont subi des agressions inacceptables.
Okay, thank you for helping me clarify this because when I was saying this yesterday, it was to parliamentaries, deputies, who had been subjected to unacceptable violence
Depuis ces derniers jours.
since the past few days.
Ici, avec beaucoup de solennité, nous sommes une grande nation et un vieux peuple.
And I'm saying this here with a lot of solemnity. How to translate that? Yo, thanks for the follow. COVID hoax Trump 2024. What a beautiful name. Hey, wait. Let me. Oh yeah, the alert box is in the wrong place. There we go. There we go. Okay, that's better. Thank you for the follow. So yo, nice Apple Watch. So the all right, that distracted me. Let me
Précises à des
re-listen.
parlementaires qui ont subi des agressions inacceptables depuis ces derniers jours. Et je vous le dis ici avec beaucoup de solennité, nous sommes une grande nation et un vieux peuple.
We are a great nation and an old people.
Ils se dotent de responsables qui ont une légitimité politique, président de la République, des parlementaires.
This people has political representatives, the president of the republic, the deputies of the people
Ils sont élus par lui.
that have been
Il y a
elected
des
by them.
légitimités qui existent. Les syndicats ont une légitimité.
There are legitimate bodies that exist. Unions are legitimate.
Quand ils défilent, qu'ils manifestent, ils sont en opposition à cette réforme. Je les respecte. Ils défendent leur point de vue.
When they protest, when they fight back against this law, I respect that. They have their own point of view.
Et d'ailleurs, c'est protégé par la Constitution, le droit de manifester, de pétition. Il y a une légitimité.
And indeed, that is protected by the Constitution. The right to protest, that is a legitimate thing. Respect. Well, the thing is, I think a lot of people, especially on the honestly on both sides of the political aisle in France, they will listen to this and they will see hypocrisy. They will see extreme hypocrisy in what Macron is saying right here, because we are coming out of years of truly violent repression of popular movements in France, from dating back to the Yellow Vests, the fights between the Yellow Vests and the riot police. And just 2 days ago, after the vote of no confidence, 117 people got arrested overnight. And yeah, there was vandalism as well. But we have we are seeing a lot of footage emerge that seems to be pointing out just plain police brutality, not legitimate police action in order to stop vandalism, in order to keep the peace, but outright brutality in various situations in various cities in France. So those are nice words from Macron, but they don't mean much. It's the actions that we have to judge. Thank you for the sub, Gary Contigian.
Et d'ailleurs, le gouvernement, comme le Parlement, a essayé de tenir compte de ces manifestations et d'intégrer une partie de ces colères. On y reviendra.
Nice. The journalist was about to cut him off. And indeed, the government has been taking into account those protests and this discontent, and we have tried to integrate those different opinions into the law. Just not at all the case. Not at all the case. Multiple times, especially Elisabeth Borne, who has been representing and sort of championing this law, being the face of this law, though everyone knows Macron is behind her. She has multiple times stated that there will be no compromise, that there will be no discussion, that this law has to pass and it will pass, and no one can do anything about it. I'm paraphrasing. She didn't exactly say that, but that was pretty much and that's pretty much what happened, right? The ultimatum was set, the law went through. I'm quite disappointed by his elaboration of the law. We need to change, but I want to lower the passions, so go work longer. Even though your job is grinding you to shit, there are more grinding jobs. Yeah, this is like, I've been thinking about the past few days. Honestly, for a lot of jobs, those 2 years aren't really a big deal. It's more. I was listening to Michel Onfray, a French philosopher, talk about it the other day as well. And he said something which is kind of what I was saying as well yesterday, or the day before yesterday, when I was trying to explain the French people's discontent. It's not that this specific law is that bad. It's that it's the drop. It's the fucking straw that breaks the camel's back. Or it's one more straw on the camel's back, more specifically. It's one more step of disdain, of attacking what the French people see as their social acquisitions that were hard fought for before and after World War II, mostly by socialist parties, unions, so on and so forth. And this slow process of inch by inch losing the benefits, losing to this politics of competitiveness, of liberalization of the economy, is something that a lot of French people, and honestly, whether they're left or right wing, despise, and they feel despised. All right, where was I at in their translation?
À côté de ça, non, à côté de ça, je vous le dis, dans le moment que vivent nos démocraties, quand des groupes utilisent l'extrême violence.
However, next to that, so he was talking about the protests that he describes as legitimate. Next to those protests, when there are groups that use the hyper-violence
pour agresser des élus de la République, qu'ils soient parlementaires aujourd'hui ou maires,
to attack elected representatives, whether they're parliamentaries or mayors.
Malheureusement, chaque semaine. Quand
unfortunately, every week,
la violence,
when they use violence without rules,
parce qu'ils ne sont pas contents de quelque chose,
because they're unhappy about something, well, that is no longer the Republic.
Pas des propos qui sont à même d'apaiser ce qui se passe aujourd'hui dans les rues.
The journalist cuts him off to say, well, sure, but this isn't a speech that is likely to appease the people discontent with you, who are out on the streets.
Qui clarifie. Ce sont des propos qui clarifient.
Those are words, and Macron responds, those are words that clarify.
Quand les États-Unis d'Amérique ont vécu ce qu'ils ont vécu au Capitole, quand le Brésil a vécu ce qu'il a vécu, quand vous avez eu l'extrême violence en Allemagne, aux Pays-Bas.
Okay, so now he's saying when the U.S. Went through what they went through at the Capitol, referring to January 6th, when Brazil went through what they went through, referring to the coup attempt. I forgot the wasn't it January 6th as well? I think it was in January. I forgot. He's talking about he's basically comparing the protests here in France to insurrection and coup attempts. Lol, violent discontent not being the Republic. I know, right?
Parfois par le passé chez nous, je vous le dis très nettement, il faut dire, on respecte.
We have to say, we respect, we listen.
Je vais y revenir parce que je veux qu'on parle du fond de cette réforme.
We do what's necessary for the country, and I insist on that because I want to talk more about why this reform is necessary.
Mais on ne peut accepter.
But we cannot accept neither the factions nor the factieux. How do you translate that? He's doing like a wordplay. Ni les factieux, ni les factions. Partisans. That's the we cannot accept neither factions nor partisans. He means in the more like engaged, violent military sense almost. Lol, violent discontent. Oh yeah, sorry, I read that already. Doing what's necessary for the country of old white men. Yeah. Important reminder. Wait, why is this loading so slowly? Do I have my VPN on? Nope, doesn't seem to be on. Oh, probably because the Facebook container is on. No Facebook trackers. Okay. Okay, turned. I can't see your meme. All right. Anyways, back to the speech. Oops.
Des millions de Français qui manifestent.
Oui, mais ceux-ci, il faut les écouter, il faut écouter leur colère et y répondre.
C'est cela.
Yes, we need to listen to them. We need to listen to their anger, and we need to respond to it by beating them up in the streets, I guess.
Parce qu'avec ces propos, vous faites référence au débordement, mais que dites-vous à ceux qui vont manifester demain, 9e journée d'action dans la rue?
So with what you just said, you address the people who are responsible for the excesses, the violence. However, what do you have to say to the people who are peacefully protesting? This is now the 9th day of continuous protests, striking, action against the law.
C'est quoi? C'est pas la peine d'y aller? Il n'y a plus rien à négocier?
Non.
What are you saying? That it's not even worth going there? That there's nothing to negotiate anymore?
Non,
C'est la fin de partie.
Alors,
the other journalist adds on that it's the end game. And Macron's like, no. He's gathering his thoughts.
je voudrais essayer de.
I would like to try to, first of all, say what this text is going to do.
Au moment où je vous parle, est-ce que vous pensez que ça me fait plaisir de faire cette réforme?
At this moment that I'm talking to you, do you think that I take any pleasure in doing this reform?
Dites-le nous.
Non. Est-ce que
No.
vous pensez que j'aurais pas pu faire comme tant avant moi, mettre la poussière sous le tapis?
Do you think I couldn't have done as many have done before me, just ignored the problem, or he uses the expression shove the dust under the rug?
Oui.
Yes, maybe.
Mais la réalité, et s'il y a une chose
But the reality, and if there's one thing that I regret,
nous n'avons pas réussi à partager la contrainte, plus exactement la nécessité de faire cette réforme.
it's that we weren't able to communicate the constraint, the need to enact this reform.
Au moment où moi je suis rentré dans la vie active, il y avait 10 millions de retraités.
When I entered active life, there were 10 million retirees.
Il y en a aujourd'hui 17 millions. Dans les années 2030, il y en aura 20 millions.
There are now 17 million retirees. By 2030, there will be 20 million retirees.
Est-ce que vous pensez qu'on peut continuer avec les mêmes règles? On rentre de plus en plus tard dans la vie professionnelle.
Do you think we can continue with the same rules as before? We enter active life later and later in life, which is true, right? People study longer, etc., etc.
On vit, et c'est une chance de plus en plus.
We live, and that is a a great thing, older and older.
Nous avons un système par répartition qui fait que c'est nous, les actifs, qui finançons aujourd'hui les retraites.
We have a system of solidarity, which means that it is us nowadays who are working who finance the retirement funds.
On ne finance pas les nôtres.
We aren't financing our own retirement, we're financing their retirement.
Donc oui, il n'y a pas 36 solutions si on veut.
So yes,
Il ne l'est plus.
there isn't a million solutions to this if we want to balance the system out. There are no more
Et plus
solutions.
on va attendre, plus il se dégradera. Donc,
And the longer we wait,
nécessaire. Et je le dis
the more the system will deteriorate. So what did he say? I'm here now. Is he going all in? Yo, dark is my soul. One point that you'll particularly enjoy as a Brazilian, he compared the protests here in France to January 6th at the Capitol or the insurrection attempt in Brazil. He actually went there, which I think is hilarious. No, he really did. He literally named Brazil the capital. Yeah, which is like. And right now, what he's saying, he's explaining the justification for the changes to the retirement system, which, and I've said this on stream. I don't even disagree with those justifications in and of themselves. It is true that the demographics of the French people have changed. It is true that the way we work, the length of time we work, the age at which we enter the workplace, all those things have changed. However, I have a very, very deep problem with how this is all going, this is all happening, and how it's being presented. And one thing that I do agree with Macron is that Macron said something right before you tuned in, Dark as My Soul. He said that if he has one regret, it's that he wasn't able to convey to the French people how necessary this reform was. And that is absolutely true. He was not able to convey it. There are over 70% of the French people who absolutely do not see things the way he sees. They do not see this as a necessity. They have not had their questions answered. They don't understand why there is a report from the retirement fund management stating that the budget is balanced until 2050. Well, it is, but it's balanced because the French government contributes money into the fund. Well, like the whole dialogue has broken down a while ago, and I do hold Macron responsible partially for that for sure. Do I only disagree on the aesthetics? No, it's not just the aesthetics. It's more specifically that, look, let me put it this way. I would actually support the law 100% if I knew that the money being freed from retirement from those like 2 years was going to ensure the continuity and of say like public health. The public health system in France has been deteriorating for decades. Let's put those billions of euros into the public health system, right? Like that's something, okay, like sure, we work 2 years more, but we get better healthcare. That's a trade-off, right? That's something I can get behind. It really kind of depends on where the money's going. I'm honestly afraid most of the money is going just to debt mitigation because of the debt exploding during COVID. I can see being like, oh, in 30 years no one's going to retire, but like this is the worst way to do it, right? Well, it's also because, and it's not the aesthetics, right? It's the forcing it through. It's forcing it through without the. It's forcing it through without what most people would see as the proper democratic process. Macron's defended it earlier in the interview by claiming that since, hey, it's part of the law, it's part of the Fifth Republic, there was a vote. The vote wasn't for the law. The vote was for a motion of no confidence against the government, but there still was a vote. So Macron defends it as democratic. I think very few people in France actually see what just happened now as truly democratic. What an opium dream we are having. Thank you. Yeah, but you know what I want. If the net gain was 0, then there would be no reason. I mean, I don't think Macron is like evil. I do think I just think he's he's a neoliberal ideologue. He actually believes in that system. He believes in that way of organizing society. I believe that system is bad, but I don't think he's thinking about this retirement change in terms of like making money. He does have his own logic for why he thinks it's what's best for the French people. Now, where I could argue that he's malicious is in the disdain and misrepresentation of the opposition. We've already had him we've already had him segue from discussing what he calls legitimate protests to, like I said, the Dog of My Soul, comparing violent protests to the January 6th at the Capitol or the coup attempt in Brazil, which is a ridiculous comparison. This isn't best for the people, though. Like I'm saying, like there is an argument where that money could be better spent. Now, there are also other nuances to this as well. The truth is, for the people who have extremely harsh jobs, this is a horrible, horrible thing that he's putting into place. This is a horrible thing that he's putting into place because of the like if you're working a physical job, something that's breaking your back, something that's hurting your health, you're gonna suffer, and like this is a horrible thing for people, or mental health as well. He's not even, but he sees the limits in the system. But I'm not asking for what you think he thinks, but just what you want, and think about the law, why it's necessary in the current system, aside from communication and pseudo-procedural issues. The fact that he made that argument means he's desperate, can't stop the protest now. He's gonna have to bite the bullet if he wants to stay. Well, he will stay. The thing is, he can't run for president anyways. That's why he's okay with doing political suicide anyways. So you want to know what I think about the law? I've been kind of going back and forth on it personally. I really don't think. I think for most people, this law really isn't a big deal. If it was taken by itself, pushing the retirement so like there are two parts to the law, right? There is moving the retirement age from 62 to 64, and then there is the increase in the minimum pension. So poor pensioners actually have their quality of life improved. That being said, the demographics of retirement in France, or the socioeconomics rather of them, the socioeconomic demographics of retirement in France are pretty fucking sad. I've seen the stats, and most poor French people die within a few years after going into retirement. They don't live on to be 70, 80, 90. They don't live on to get the benefits of what Macron put in there to help them. Those who do live on are upper class, are those who have property, those who collect rent, those who collect larger pensions and can live very comfortable lives. And do those people actually need the extra aid? Probably not. But still, maybe increasing the minimum level of retirement will actually help poor retirees survive their retirement. So that might actually be an important progressive measure that's part of the law package. Now, on the other hand, raising it from 62 to 64, I honestly think that for most workers, that's not really that big of a deal. The thing is, it's if you're going into early retirement, you're sacrificing a large part of your pension. A lot of people will not retire at the minimum age, regardless of what happens. Retiring at 62 is something people usually only do if they had, well, really good salaries, so they can take the hit on their pension if they already are in a good enough situation, or if their work is truly weighing them down, and they just bite the bullet and take on that sacrifice. But I think more so than the law itself, which I really don't think it's that bad. The problem is it's part of a whole process of Macron dismantling various parts of the French nanny state, various parts of the French support to people. People see it, and it's true that it is Macron pandering to his voter base, which is mostly older, retired people. And, well, that is the case, right? Improving pensions for them, while making sure that there are enough workers to pay those pensions. That is a very, very attractive proposition to pensioners. And, well, young people who've felt continuously betrayed by Macron reneging on his promises to the younger demographics, et cetera, rightfully feel betrayed. Even when you enter a little bit earlier, get punished for it is not proportion in any right way. I'm not sure what you're saying, Beng, but yeah, well, that's what I was describing. You pay a penalty if you retire early. But so if people want to get their full pension, nothing has changed. You have to work until you're 67. That was the case before the reform. That will still be the case after the reform, which is why I'm saying, it's not necessarily by itself, the law. I really don't think it's that big of a deal as some people are making out to be. What makes it a big deal is that it's the straw on the camel's back. It's one more action that the French people are despising from Macron's government. If you enter just months earlier, you get much, much less. Yes, indeed. Yeah, because it's even by trimester. It's like very gradual, and you get penalties large penalties very fast. All right, back to the interview.
Français, ça ne me fait pas plaisir, j'aurais voulu ne pas la faire, mais c'est pour ça aussi que j'ai pris l'engagement de la faire devant vous par le sens des responsabilités.
This law gave me no pleasure. I didn't want to make this happen, but I had to. I had to because of my sense of responsibilities.
Et c'est l'intérêt général.
And it's in the common interest of the people.
Qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire face à cette situation démographique qui est la nôtre? On aurait pu dire on baisse les pensions.
What can we do facing this demographic situation which we find ourselves in? We could have proposed to lower pensions.
La réponse est non.
The response is no.
Les retraités n'ont pas trop de pouvoir d'achat.
Our retirees already do not have much buying power.
On va même relever celle des plus modestes.
He reminds that we will even be raising the minimum pension.
La deuxième solution, ça aurait été d'augmenter les cotisations des actifs.
The second solution would have been to increase the contributions from the active workers.
Nous avons un problème de pouvoir d'achat en raison de l'inflation, de la
Ou des entreprises, Monsieur le Président.
Non.
We have a problem. We have a purchasing power problem. Wait, sorry, because the journalist interrupted. Let's see what he says.
La deuxième solution, ça aurait été d'augmenter les cotisations des actifs. Nous avons un problème de pouvoir d'achat en raison de l'inflation, de la difficulté.
Okay, there you go. So he's saying, well, the second solution would be to increase social contributions, taxes, basically, and have the workers pay for it. But they already are struggling with the reduced buying power because of inflation. And the journalist cuts in saying, well, also because of companies. Because of profit taking.
Les entreprises, Monsieur le Président.
Non.
Et de mettre les entreprises à contribution, ce qui n'est pas le cas aujourd'hui dans le financement.
Non.
Oh no, sorry, I misrepresented what the journalist is replying with. The journalist is replying, well, no, Mr. President, we could tax the companies. We are currently not making the companies contribute their share to French society. And Macron is replying, no.
Non, parce que je vais venir, c'est pas comme ça que marchent les retraites. Les retraites, c'est des cotisations des actifs.
No, because and I'll get there, because that is not how retirement funds are supposed to work. Retirement is paid by the active people for the retirees.
La solution, c'est de dire au fond, j'acte que mon système de retraite a un déséquilibre.
The third solution is to accept that the retirement system is unbalanced.
Et c'est le budget de l'État qui va le financer par ailleurs.
And then it's the state's budget that will finance it.
Alors comment on fait quand c'est le budget de l'État? Soit on augmente les impôts.
And how do we deal with it when it's the state's budget? Either we raise taxes.
Nous sommes l'un des pays occidentaux qui a les impôts les plus hauts.
We are one of the Western countries with the highest tax rates.
Moi, je crois dans la réindustrialisation du pays. J'espère qu'on y reviendra. On l'a défendu. On est en train de gagner cette bataille.
I believe in the reindustrialization of the country. I have defended this. I have fought for it, and we are currently winning this battle.
C'est pas pour faire l'inverse.
It's not. I don't want to now reverse that trend.
Deuxièmement, on pourrait dire
Secondly,
aux dépens d'autres priorités.
we could say we were going to sacrifice other priorities for it.
On doit investir dans nos services publics, notre école, notre santé.
We could invest in our. We could sacrifice our healthcare, our education, etc., etc.
On ne peut pas prendre cet argent pour le mettre sur les retraites.
We can't take that money to put it into retirement funds.
Et alors la formule magique, qui est implicitement le projet de toutes les oppositions. Et
So the magic formula, which is the project of all the opposition parties implicitly,
de tous ceux qui s'opposent à cette réforme.
of all those who oppose this reform, is deficit.
Qu'est-ce que c'est le déficit? Ça veut dire de
But what is deficit?
vous choisissez de faire payer vos enfants parce qu'aujourd'hui, vous
Meaning-
décidez avec clarté et courage.
Monsieur le Président,
Meaning you are choosing to make your children pay because right now you refuse to face the problem with clarity and courage.
Regardez, vos collègues du Parisien avaient fait cette petite infographie.
Your colleagues from the Parisian, which is a newspaper, obviously from Paris, have made this infographic to show people.
J'ai arrivé de la convoquer.
Oui.
Enfin, nous sommes le pays d'Europe qui, avec la Suède, qui a un autre système et un autre modèle, mais on est ensemble. Regardez, tous les autres sont entre 65 et
Mais
65.
Monsieur
On
le
entend
Président.
vos
So he's comparing the French system to other retirement systems. Here, let me make it bigger so you can actually see. Where is it? Oh, there it is. He's comparing the French system to the other states, where so the minimum legal age of retirement is only the same as in Sweden, but for all other countries who have similar systems, it's much higher. This is an argument that that's been thrown around a lot by the people supporting the reform. This is so disappointing. Where are the guillotines? Well, the protests have been pretty violent the past couple of days. Let me finish this translating this question, and I'll answer your what you wrote in chat.
arguments, Monsieur le Président,
Ces
mais
graphiques,
pourquoi
on les
est-ce que
montre.
vous n'avez pas été compris?
Okay, no. So now she's asking why you haven't been understood. So they're moving on. Let me respond to you, Turnet. If the savings went to better healthcare and unable to work money, then that could have been included in the law itself. Yes, absolutely. This law actually makes the situation worse for most people. There's a reason why in the current system it is actually impossible to keep up living standards, even though we had huge economical and technological growth over the last 50 years. Even though technology improved a lot, a worker has to work more and longer, directly forced by this law, for example. Like, I agree with all of the economical arguments Macron makes. I disagree with most economical arguments, like make companies pay more taxes from most social democrats. Wait, aren't you Wait, what are you saying then? I'm not sure what you're saying then. It feels like you're contradicting yourself, or I'm misunderstanding probably. I could also tax income. He could also tax income and wealth the same. There is a wealth tax in France. If your estate is worth more than, I think, 1.5 million euros, you start paying wealth tax. That is a thing. Or is it still? No, because there's been reforms. It might have been removed actually. Let me double check real quick. Why is internet so slow? What's happening today? I agree that what Macron does is necessary within capitalism, yes, and SOCDEMs pretend it isn't. Okay. Okay, now I understand. But you being socialist, you disagree with the system in and of itself, but you agree with the arguments within the system that Macron is working within. I'm shocked by that. Wealth tax in my mind is for billionaires, not millionaires. There is a completely different mindset with regards to that in Europe in general. When I learned that retirement, talking too much about retirement. When I learned that why is internet so? Am I connected to the right Wait. Let me check something. Am I connected to the right? Yeah, I am. Okay. What the fuck? When I learned that the inheritance tax in the U.S., the exemption is up to $4.5 million before you start paying taxes, I was like, what the fuck? That is crazy. Yeah, Turner is right also, right? The taxation in the U.S. actually went crazy high in high tax brackets. And it only started to change under Reagan, and the biggest changes were, if I recall correctly, after Reagan actually. Like Reagan made the highest bracket, took it down from what was 80 to 50% taxation on the highest bracket income, and then it got even lower later on. Okay, I can't load this Google search to save my life. And real estate tax, most wealth tax. Okay. Well, yeah. Obviously, a lot of wealth is held in real estate. Sure. Yeah. Yeah, man. Okay, let's not debate capitalism versus communism. let's just keep doing the interview.
Et parce qu'il y a une volonté, d'abord, parce que je vous le dis très
Monsieur
sincèrement.
le Président, ces graphiques, on les montre depuis le début.
Oui.
La pédagogie, vous la faites
Et on n'a
depuis
pas
le début.
forcément envie d'entendre la réalité, mais je vous dis, cette réforme, ça n'est
So the journalists are replying, but Mr. President, we've seen those charts. We know all about this. Oh wait. Okay, sorry, I have a little problem here in my. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I need to fix something on my other screen. A little technical issue. Alright, there we go. And let's go back. People baguette. That's not even a real emote. All right, let's go back to her question.
Mais parce qu'il y a une volonté, d'abord, parce que je vous le dis très sincèrement.
Monsieur le Président, ces graphiques, on les montre depuis le début.
Oui.
La pédagogie, vous la
Et
faites
on n'a
depuis
pas
le début.
forcément.
Oh, right. Okay, sorry. Let me go back to her question and let's go over all this again.
Pourquoi est-ce que vous n'avez pas été compris?
Mais parce que
Mr. President, why have you not been understood or heard?
volonté, d'abord, parce que je vous le dis très sincèrement.
Monsieur le Président, ces graphiques, on les montre depuis le début.
Oui.
Mr. President, those statistics, those kinds of graphics, we've been showing them since the very beginning.
La pédagogie, vous la
Et
faites
on n'a
depuis
pas
le début.
forcément envie.
The pedagogical approach has been done since the very beginning. And Macron's responding, well, we haven't necessarily had...
d'entendre la réalité, mais je vous dis, cette réforme...
Oh, we don't necessarily want to hear the reality. Here he's talking about the French people. Saying they aren't necessarily ready to face reality.
Ça n'est pas un luxe, ça n'est pas un plaisir, c'est une nécessité pour le pays.
This reform is not a luxury, it's not a nice thing, but it's a necessity for this country.
Ensuite,
Vous pensez
Il y a
l'avoir
des
mal
forces
expliqué,
politiques.
Monsieur le Président?
Do you think you have poorly explained the situation, Mr. President?
non, je pense simplement qu'il y a aussi une volonté de passer à autre chose chez certains et de ne pas partager cette contrainte.
No, I think there's simply a desire to move on to nicer things and to not face this reality among certain people.
Mais peut-on
Moi, je
avoir
constate
raison
qui-
contre 70% des Français?
Écoutez,
aussi
d'abord,
juste
je
soit votre
pense
conviction, Monsieur le Président.
Mais
The journalist is bringing up, well, can you really say that of over 70% of French people who disapprove of this law?
Mais peut-on avoir raison seul
je
contre
pense qu'on
les autres?
Can you truly be right when so many people disagree with you?
peut prendre ses responsabilités dans un système démocratique où les élections ne sont pas très tardives, ni celles des parlementaires, ni celles du président, et où, sur les fondamentaux d'une réforme, après il faut la compléter, il faut entendre ce qui se dit, je vais y revenir.
So he's saying he's going back to the democratic process, talking about how, well, we are in a system where we're in a democratic system where we have been elected and we represent the people. And we do need to listen to what's being said and the criticism that's addressed, and I'll get back to that later.
Et je pense que beaucoup de choses qui se sont dites ne sont pas sur les retraites.
I think that a lot of things that have been said are not about the retirement.
Et y compris les colères qui s'expriment aujourd'hui. Nos pêcheurs, par exemple, s'expriment à Rennes. C'est pas les retraites le cœur de leur problème.
Including a lot of the people discontent right now today. For example, the fishermen, their issues aren't with the retirement.
C'est des réglementations ou des jugements qui leur tombent dessus. Bon, il faut les entendre et les aider.
Their discontent is because of judgments and restrictions that have leur sont tombés dessus, that fell onto them, and we have to listen to them.
Beaucoup des colères qui se sont exprimées, ça ne sont pas que les retraites. Et je veux y revenir et pouvoir en parler.
Much of the discontent that has been expressed is unrelated to the retirement, and I would like to discuss that more. It's funny that now that the main topic is retirement, now he wants to talk about the other things people are unhappy with the government with. Interesting, huh?
Mais notre système aujourd'hui.
But our system today.
Et donc je le fais en responsabilité, par le sens de l'intérêt général.
I am doing what's necessary, what needs to be done for it, for the common good.
Il y a une partie des oppositions qui ont eu le sens des responsabilités. Et
There is a part of the opposition that does have a sense of responsibilities, and I
vous le dis ici aussi, il faut les respecter et les associer.
And I'm telling you right here, right now, that we have to respect them and associate them.
La majorité au Sénat n'est pas une majorité qui soutient normalement ni le président de la République ni celle de l'Assemblée. Elle a enrichi ce texte.
The majority in the Senate, which is not a majority that usually follows the president of the republic blindly or accepts everything, they have amended and enriched this text of law.
Elle l'a modifié.
They've modified it.
Quelque chose qui va
They've added things that go in the same direction. Plus the representatives of the opposition
venant de la droite républicaine
coming from the Republican right wing
ont décidé de voter ce texte et de ne pas voter la motion de censure.
have decided to vote for this text and to not vote for the motion of not vote for the no confidence. Indeed, yeah, the Republican Party. Some of them did support but most of them are pro Macron at this point.
Respecter, c'est les associer aussi. Ils ont le sens des responsabilités. Je regrette qu'aucune force syndicale n'ait proposé un compromis.
Okay, so he's saying, he's saying that those who have supported his what he's been doing do have a sense of responsibilities, and then he comes to unions saying that he regrets that unions have not proposed any alternatives, which is just not true. That is actually a blatant lie. Now, obviously, he was unhappy with what the unions proposed, but the unions have been. This is exactly what the unions have been asking for from day one. They've been wanting to negotiate. They want to have their voice heard. What they've received in turn was Elisabeth Borne telling them to fuck off. This is a blatant lie from Macron. This is actually disgusting.
Et c'est ça aussi, il faut voir depuis le début. Là où historiquement, les forces syndicales pouvaient proposer des compromis.
And he goes on to basically criticize unions in general, saying that historically, unions were capable of making compromises.
Faites pas 65 ans, 63 ans et demi, augmentez la durée.
Maybe don't do 65 years, do 63 and a half. Which, once again, those things were actually discussed. I don't understand where he's coming from here.
On nous a dit aucune réforme.
We've told us no reform. We've been told by the unions no reform.
Vous n'avez
pas totalement.
Vous n'avez commis aucune erreur.
So she's asking, so in your eyes, you've committed no wrong.
De ne pas réussir à convaincre, mais en même temps.
And he responds, well, no, to not have successfully convinced people. That is his mistake.
Je constate qu'il y a aussi une tendance dans nos démocraties à vouloir s'abstraire du principe de réalité. Et ça.
But I have to notice that there is a tendency in our democracies nowadays to lose touch with reality. And that
C'est aussi sans doute les conséquences d'une
is also
situation après le Covid.
the consequences of a situation
Les forces politiques, syndicales. Je note que le secrétaire général
after COVID.
pour qui j'ai estime
He blames COVID for people losing touch with his own words with reality. Then he talks about the leadership of one of the unions, CFGT,
et respect était
that
allé
he
dans
respects.
son congrès en proposant d'augmenter les durées. Il n'a pas été suivi par son propre... Mais il avait cette volonté de faire travailler davantage.
Macron praises the representatives, so this one representative of the CFGT union for having proposed within the Congress of the union to propose a compromise to increase the duration of work, just not to 65 years, but to find a compromise with the government.
Il nous aurait proposé un compromis.
Alors.
D'ailleurs, le gouvernement a changé les choses. On n'est plus à 65 ans en 2030, mais 64 ans et une accélération de l'augmentation de la durée de cotisation.
Then he elaborates. Well, if they had proposed something to us, we could have discussed it. In fact, it's the government itself that ended up amending the law and compromising instead of being at 65. Instead of being at 65 years minimum in 2030, we're going to be at 64 years with then an acceleration towards 65. Scatter, I have to run to the corner, sir. All right, see you when we come back.
Mais il n'y a pas eu de proposition de compromis.
But there was no proposal of a
Le
compromise.
compromis, il a été fait par le gouvernement, après ces concertations.
The compromise was proposed by the government after its debates.
Il a été fait avec le Parlement.
It was done together with the parliament,
Mais nous devons avancer.
Alors,
Parce que c'est
but we have to go forward
Et je vous le dis,
because it's in the interest of the nation.
je vous le dis en responsabilité. Moi, je ne cherche pas à être réélu. Je ne le peux pas constitutionnellement.
I'm telling you from my sense of responsibility, I'm not trying to be reelected. I cannot be reelected constitutionally.
Mais entre
But
les sondages et le court terme et l'intérêt général du pays, je choisis l'intérêt général du pays.
between the short-term approval ratings and the interest of the country, I prefer the interest of the country.
Et s'il faut derrière endosser l'impopularité aujourd'hui, je l'endosserai.
Alors voilà pour la
And if I have to take on this impopularity, this disapproval now, I will do it.
pédagogie et l'explication de texte.
He sees himself as a martyr. That's what I'm getting from this whole speech. He sees himself as a martyr for the greater good, as misunderstood genius, basically, as like this misunderstood leader that the like one-eyed man in the land of the blind, basically.
Aujourd'hui, ce qui se passe dans la rue, est-ce que vous craignez un embrasement des mobilisations, un pourrissement de la situation?
The journalist is asking today, with what's been happening in the streets, do you fear an escalation in the protests? What was the word he used? Basically, he's alluding to potential escalation with violence, but also escalation simply in the popular measures, whether it's strikes, protests, blockades, etc.
Qu'est-ce que vous répondez aujourd'hui aux Français qui sont inquiets aussi de cette situation et qui la subissent?
Bien sûr.
Les ordures qui s'amoncellent, les stations essence avec des queues considérables, les blocages.
What do you have to say to the French people who nowadays are victims of the situation, who have to deal with piles of trash cluttering the streets, with long wait lines at the gas stations? Those are the two main strikes that are really affecting the French people right now, with obviously the transportation system as well. But it's the garbage collectors have been on strike. Paris has been covered in garbage bags for a week and a half now, and the oil workers have been on strike, meaning that if you're dependent on a car, it's been a rough time recently.
D'abord, je vous le dis, il y a différentes formes de contestation et vous m'avez permis de le clarifier à l'instant.
So Macron responds, there are different forms of contestation, and you just now you're allowing me to clarify on this topic.
Qu'il y ait des manifestations organisées.
That there are protests organized
C'est
by
légitime.
people against is legitimate.
Et je salue d'ailleurs
And I salute
de
the
l'ensemble des
spirit of responsibility of all the unions
compromis m'ont été contre,
who
avec clarté,
admittedly
je respecte.
did not propose a compromise. He reminds that he's really salty about that, but he respects that they went through the proper, constitutional, democratic, legal processes to set up the protests, etc.
Mais
But
c'était fait de manière calme, organisée.
it was done calmly, or the protests were well
À
organized.
côté de ça,
Next
il y a
to
des
that,
blocages, il y a des violences. Les violences, il faut les condamner.
there are blockages. I think he's referring to the strikes. There is violence, and so he says the violence needs to be condemned.
Ni les factieux, ni les factions dans la République.
Like I said, neither the partisans nor the factions will be approved in
Et
the Republic.
il y a les blocages, et les blocages, il faut pouvoir les lever quand ils empêchent l'activité normale. Et
And the strikes, they need to be lifted when they prevent the normal functioning of the country, which is a very weird sentence. When have you ever heard someone say that strikes should not prevent the normal functioning of the country? This is my first time hearing that specific sentence. That is some beautiful doublespeak right there. Nice one, Macron. Very nice one. Okay, also, by the way, if anyone's like watching from YouTube chat or whatever, I'm having a problem with the let's see if I can just compensate for it here. I'm having a problem with like the multi-stream chat thingy, so okay, no one's there. Good. Don't watch me. All right. Wait, what if I put it up here? Wait, can I pop this out? Oh yeah, pop out chat. Nice. All right, let's do it like this. Boom. Great.
c'est pourquoi d'ailleurs j'ai
Donc des
demandé.
réquisitions.
C'est pourquoi j'ai demandé.
So, so the journalist responds, well, so you mean requisitioning, which is what the government has been trying to do. The government has been trying to force people on strike to work. That has been requisitioning them, or requisitioning resources or manpower.
Au gouvernement d'essayer au maximum de négocier et ensuite de réquisitionner.
It is the responsibility of the government to, as much as possible, try to negotiate, but if that fails, to requisition the people. That is, well, I guess, to just break the strikes down.
Ce que nous avons pu faire.
That is what we've been able to do with the trash collection in certain big cities,
Sur les raffineries, à chaque fois qu'il faut.
or with the refineries.
Et ce sera fait pour qu'il n'y ait pas de blocage.
Every time it's we've needed to do it, we've been doing it.
Très peu de gens d'ailleurs.
À quand un retour à la normale dans la vie des Français, un retour à l'ordre, même disent certains. Est-ce que vous pouvez prendre un engagement
L'ordre républicain,
aujourd'hui?
c'est celui.
She's asking when will the life of the French people return to normality, and she adds in, or a return to order, as some have been saying. And Macron bounces off the word order to talk about Republican order.
Que je souhaite.
Republican order is what I wish for.
Ça dépend de moi. Je suis un peu stoïcien en la
I
matière.
I can only make a commitment to as to what depends on me. I'm a stoician. So he makes no commitment as to return to normality, since he basically presents it as independent of him.
Je pense qu'il faut qu'il y ait un chemin qui soit maintenant trouvé.
I think there needs to be a path found to bring everyone back to the table, to the discussion.
Mais ils ont raison.
French people are starting to be tired of this. We hear that in our interviews.
Depuis le début
Et
de la
donc, je
semaine,
le dis, on ne tolérera aucun.
So she starts saying they kind of cut each other off. Since the start of the week, Macron says they are right. They are right to be tired of this.
Débordement. On fera en sorte qu'une vie la plus normale possible puisse reprendre face à ceux qui bloquent à quelques-uns l'activité. Et après,
And now he in the same sentence he's associated the débordement, which is literally overflow, like the excesses. That's the right term. He's associated the excesses with the strikes, and he's saying that we will do everything that's necessary to ensure a return to normality.
c'est aussi
It's also
à nous,
up to us,
moi, l'exécutif,
up to me, the executive power, to try to hear the legitimate anger, which is not violence, again, which has been expressed at the moment of those protests. Those protests, I want to remind you, At every reform of the retirement, we've had protests, and sometimes even in much superior numbers.
Dans quelle situation serions-nous?
In which situation would we be now if,
pour ne citer que quelques-uns des exemples des réformes précédentes,
in past years, he cites the specific years, his predecessors had abandoned their reforms?
encore plus critique.
We would be in a much more critical situation nowadays if they had given up. So that's why I'm saying we have to do it.
Qu'est-ce qui s'est exprimé?
And now, in this anger and those votes,
D'abord, un sentiment d'injustice.
or sorry, in this anger and those voices, what has been expressed? Firstly, an expression of anger and injustice.
Et moi que j'entends, vous l'avez un peu évoqué en parlant des
And
entreprises.
I hear that, and you've mentioned it a little bit with your questions.
Ce sentiment d'injustice, c'est de dire au fond, c'est toujours nous.
This feeling of injustice is this idea that in the end, it's always us working.
À qui on demande des efforts. Et c'est vrai qu'on
It's always
cette réforme, faut pas
we're always asking. It's always from us that more things are being asked, more sacrifices are being demanded. And he says, yes, it's true. This reform
on demande à nos
This reform is asking the French people to do more,
la protection.
to finance the protection and the preparation of our future.
Il faut entendre ce besoin de justice.
So we have to hear this need for justice in at least two ways.
Des entreprises qu'on a aidées et on continuera cette
When
politique
we see companies that we have helped,
pour l'attractivité parce que ça permet de réindustrialiser.
and we will continue this politic that to support entrepreneurship, to support companies' activities,
De pays, nous rendre plus forts.
because we are trying to reindustrialize the country and make us stronger.
Il y a quand même un peu un
But
cynisme à l'œuvre.
there is
Quand on a des grandes
a
entreprises
cynicism at work here. When we see big companies that are having record profits and that are using that money to buy
propres actions,
back their own shares,
le gouvernement de pouvoir
well, I'm going to ask the government
une contribution exceptionnelle
to make sure that they make an exceptional contribution so that when there are exceptional profits,
que leur travail
that they're buying back their stocks, that money goes back to the workers,
super profit, nous l'avons
or more specifically will be taxed. Okay, so he's proposing taxation of stock buybacks. That's the first time I'm hearing that. That's pretty interesting because it is a problem. It is a problem that's I've seen a lot of people grossly misunderstand, which is the issue of stock buybacks. It's not that stock buybacks are basically just dividends. Yeah, it is fucking weird to like move the conversation to that. I think he's just doing some like symbolic populism by talking about how he's gonna like tax companies, but he's actually just talking about fucking dividends, right? And the thing is, stock buybacks are taxed already. If you sell a stock back to a company and you made money off of that, that money is taxed. Now, is it taxed on the same amount as dividends or not? I don't know. It's not a Sogdom morality thing. It has nothing to do with Sogdom ideology, turn it. This has all to do with preying upon the French people's financial illiteracy. French people are honestly pretty financially illiterate. They don't understand the nuances of like stock buybacks and dividends. And to the basic French person who's never looked at the stock market, who's never looked at how stocks actually work and how profits and etc. work, they're going to hear him say this and they're going to be like, yeah, so he still wants to tax record profits from companies. Which so that's the I think this is just like a rhetorical trick to make himself look populist in this like anti big company way. And I think he knows very well that it's stupid. That, like, he's worked for a bank, right? He's been a banker. Macron is not a financially illiterate politician. He knows very well what he's talking about, and that it's bullshit. Now let's see if the journalists call him out on that. I sincerely doubt it.
Déjà fait pour les énergéticiens. C'est ce qu'on a construit au niveau européen. C'est ce qui nous permet d'ailleurs de financer le bouclier face à l'augmentation de l'énergie.
So he's talking about how there have already been measures of exceptional taxation of the energy sector that have financed the the government's initiative that has been put into place since the start of the war in Ukraine and the energy crisis in order to control energy prices for French people. And that is what makes it so that by every month you only pay 20 to 30 more euros on your electricity or gas instead of 200 or 300 euros, which is false. I know a lot of people who are paying much more than 20, 30 extra euros on their energy bills. I don't know where he's pulling those numbers out from, but I'm sure, you know, a lot of money has been put to control prices, but those numbers are like pulled out of his ass and they stink. The only people that like him saying that are the people who think this is a rhetorical trick and that it would work, his backing, which it won't. No, I'm telling you, Turn, there are a lot of people in France who don't understand, who are financially illiterate. France is a country where very few people are consumer investors. Very few people learn about those things. If they haven't done economic studies or financial studies, they have no idea what he's talking about. Now, I agree with you that the people who support him and who know what he's talking about and know it's bullshit will also probably think like, hey, yeah, good plan. Let's bullshit them well. But that's not who this is addressing. He's trying to address the financially illiterate people. Landphobe, they actually did ask a few hard-hitting questions earlier on. This isn't like a free interview for Macron to grandstand. Though right now we're kind of in like a grandstanding part of the interview. Earlier they were actually challenging what Macron was saying. Though I wish they were challenging it more. Honestly, they aren't doing as much as I wish they did. But I'm not like disappointed either with this interview.
On l'a financé en taxant les super profits des énergéticiens.
Okay, he's talking about taxing super profits from the energy sectors, once again doing this like anti-corporate populism. I'm saying we have great companies which are buying back their stocks with exceptional profits, so they need to distribute more to their employees. There needs to be more of a contribution to the current crisis. Many workers also say, you ask more from us, but there are people who never work and they have a normal life. Okay, now he's going. So okay, this is like classic Macron rhetoric. He did the like lefty anti-corporate populism now for like 5 minutes, and now he's pivoting over to the right wing. People are exploiting the social system. There are parasites in our social system narrative that to like appease the right wing voters. He's doing the pivot, and this is a Macron classic, and man, yeah, this is gonna be disgusting. So he's talking about the parasites in the system who have, according to him, I don't know who he's talking about, but according to him, just as good of a quality of life as those workers who have to work hard. That is why we need to very quickly engage to go find the people who are on the social aid, to help them come back to work, to help them and responsibilize them, implying that if you are on social aid and aren't working or cannot work, you're irresponsible. This is a classic theme with Macron. If you aren't working, you're irresponsible. He sincerely believes that.
Les plus importantes à venir, c'est-à-dire droits et devoirs.
That is
pour les bénéficiaires du RSA.
Rights and duties reinforced for people benefiting from the RSA, which is the basically like the basic minimum money package for people with no income.
Mieux les former, les accompagner.
Better train and accompany them, resolve housing problems, resolve like children care problems, transportation problems, but also bring them back to the workplace. People who haven't been working for years or sometimes decades, at this moment when we have a need for them. And she responds, this is what... Is this what you're telling people, to appease them? Is this your message to them? Those are those are work that I'm trying to not chantier. Chantier is not work. Those are projects. That's the right term. Those are projects that I'm trying to open because there is a need for them.
À côté de ça,
Next to that,
ce qu'on
there
entend,
is what we hear.
c'est aussi
It's also
sur le travail.
protests about work.
Beaucoup de gens,
A lot of people, rightfully so.
écoutez,
I was listening in agriculture in Brittany,
métiers encore postés,
in certain hard works in the industry, in the center of France,
métiers aussi du soin.
jobs that in healthcare, garbage collectors, those very difficult jobs.
On a le dos cassé.
They're telling me when they're 60 years old, their backs are broken, their health has deteriorated, and it's true.
Si on est
But
honnête avec nous-mêmes,
if we're going to be honest with ourselves,
64 ans qui est le problème. Le problème,
it's not 60 or 62 that is the problem. It's at 50 or 55.
par le gouvernement comme
So-
par les parlementaires dans ce texte.
The topic that we've begun to broach in Parliament with notably this text
C'est celui de l'usure professionnelle et des fins de carrière.
is that of professional fatigue and properly ending your careers.
Bah, celui-ci, on doit très concrètement le prendre à bras.
The solution needs to truly address this problem head on, because
Donner une réponse.
giving an answer to this legitimate anger is something that I wish for.
Attendre quelques jours, quelques semaines.
We need to wait a few days, a few weeks, so that we re-engage with social partners on those specific issues. So professional fatigue,
La reconversion de fin de carrière. Il y a beaucoup de métiers
reconverting, changing professions towards the end of your career.
qui font passer 50 ans. On doit
There are many jobs where past 50 you will need to change to move to a different job.
reconvertir.
Pourquoi avoir attendu
You need
si
to
longtemps
convert.
pour, mettre
Why have you waited so long? So the journalist cuts him off. Why have you waited so long
sur la table ces propositions
to propose those things, to put them on the table? Okay, before I get into the answer, let me catch up with chat. Will Macron talk about spurring companies to increase wages? Doubt it, lol, because of inflation. Well, he did imply that when he was talking about stock buybacks. He specifically, before talking about taxation of the stock buybacks, of like social contribution from the companies with their profits, he explicitly mentioned improving the making sure that the workers are compensated properly for the record profits of companies. But those are vague promises. He doesn't really promise anything there. I've heard him say stuff like that for years, and it doesn't really happen. So I have very low confidence in that part of his speech. Yo, Couchman, how are you doing? Welcome to the stream. We are currently going over Macron's response this afternoon to the whole situation in France. I don't know if you've been following it. I'll do a quick recap right now since we're like actually smack dab in the middle. Basically, the retirement reform that Macron has been trying to pass for months now, actually, and it's been a campaign promise of his since the very beginning. This retirement reform has finally gone through, but it has gone through in a very, very forceful way. Basically, through what's the equivalent of an executive order in the French system, except it's an executive order that truly inscribes it into law. The only recourse of the parliament, since more than 70% of the French people do not approve of raising the retirement age from the minimum retirement age from 62 to 64, the only recourse was a vote of no confidence against the government that would have evicted Macron's government out of power. The vote of no confidence on Monday failed by 9 votes. It was super close. People protested since the vote failed, and it's a very unpopular law. However, the law as it is written has passed. It's also been approved by the Senate, so it's gone through the French institutions. And so today, Macron went on TV, confronted those 2 journalists in order to defend and explain his position and what are the next steps, what's going to happen. No reason to not mention it more explicitly, even if only for pandering reasons. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. There's no reason to. Oh wait, no, sorry. No reason to not mention it more explicitly. Oh, that's what you're saying. No, there is a reason to not mention it more explicitly because there is a reason to not mention it more explicitly because then he's like committing to something, right? I don't think he has a clear plan. Otherwise, he would have gone into more detail. I think he's kind of bullshitting on that part. Not on the taxing like stock buybacks, but we've already discussed that. Like that's like fucking stupid. Awesome, thanks for the summary. Jesus sounds intense. The whole no confidence thing. I wish the U.S. had a no confidence vote. Yeah, it was close. The problem is basically, and on paper it's a good system, right? The executive branch can force a law through the parliament without the democratic process, without the vote, and then the opposition can file for a vote of no confidence, and so it's kind of like an ultimatum. Now the reality is this law would never have passed, right? Like I'm saying, over more than 70% of French people hate this law. Macron's party is the majority party, but they don't have over 50% of the parliament. If I recall correctly, they have like 30-some%. So both the right wing, Macron would have probably allied with the Republicans on this law, but he would still not have had 50%. This law would never have passed normally. And the ultimatum, well, the reason why they didn't get those 9 votes, even though most French deputies, parliamentaries, do not like this law, is because when faced with either accepting this law or throwing the government into chaos through a motion of no confidence, well, they prefer letting the law pass. That is the reality. It's an ultimatum, and it's very forceful. A lot of people aren't happy with it. Macron's been very insistent during the speech, during the first part of the speech, about this law following the proper democratic institutions and laws, and the fact that even though people are his response to discontent of the people, the fact that most people don't like the law, is that regardless of what they believe, the law still went through the people they elected, and it is the legitimacy of the people that have been elected that he respects. Why is he so insistent on getting this law passed? So he already explained it earlier. He sees it as an important necessity, the way the French system works. And he makes, honestly, he does make good arguments. He is correct. The demographics of French society are demographics of an aging population. The socioeconomic demographics are that of people who start working later and later as they study more before entering the workforce. They are of people who live older and older, so they have a pension longer and longer. He cited some statistics. When he what was it? Like in 2000 or 1990, something like that, there was 10 million retirees in France. Nowadays, there's 17 million. By 2027, there will be 20 million retirees in France. And so the way the system works is that everyone who's active in the workforce pays money into the retirement fund that is then redistributed to the retirees. So it is because of that, it is because of the nature of the system, that is his justification for why the system needs to be balanced, brought back into balance, so that there is enough workers to pay the retirement of all the people going into retirement. It does make sense. It does actually make sense. What doesn't make sense is that he sees it as absolutely unacceptable, for example, to fund the retirement using using money that doesn't come from people's social contributions. He vehemently opposed the idea of, say, it being tax money. He wants the system to be strictly balanced. Some other things he mentioned was, for example, lowering pensions, which an interesting part of the law package that he passed is that he actually raised the minimum pension. So first off, this is this is a truly it is a progressive measure. It is a social measure. It is a good thing, since it the statistics concerning retirement in France are actually really fucking sad. Most people from lower socioeconomic status in France, they die within like 5 years once they enter retirement. their living conditions or health conditions as well, because obviously, well, usually lower paying jobs are harder on your health as well. There is this kind of like silent crisis in France when you look at the statistics where poor people do not get to actually enjoy their retirement. They just work all their life and then they die, and that's it. So I actually do like this one part of his package, just from a social sense, of increasing the minimum retirement pension. That I think that's important. And then finally, right now, what he's talking about, he just brought up that he wants to build on this reform and start building the debates in the government in order to bring about a solution for the what he calls professional fatigue. That is the jobs that you cannot work your entire life in. He does not want the raising the minimum retirement age to be something that that is fine for office workers, which it is. I'm sorry, even though I'm more left leaning and I do oppose this idea of lowering, making people work harder, etc. I have to admit it. Economically, in a capitalist system, like the intern was saying, it makes sense. What I don't like is that you're increasing by a few years the workload of people who are breaking their back in in Amazon workshops, I was going to say sweatshops, no, in Amazon warehouses, in like agriculture, the fucking precarious delivery jobs. There are all sorts of jobs right now that are extremely painful for people's health. He mentioned healthcare as well, some others. And though it's true that those specific domains absolutely need, especially if you're raising the retirement age, they absolutely do need a system that helps them how to put it, that helps them change jobs basically at 50 is what he's proposing right now. We'll see what happens, what comes out of this. I'm curious just to see whether he actually delivers on this promise, but I like the idea. That's everywhere. The poor only put into the pension system. I'm afraid that's probably a statistic that does show itself everywhere across the world for sure.
Et d'ailleurs, les assises du travail n'ont pas attendu la réforme des retraites.
Yeah, so the journalist asked him, why are you only talking about improving the conditions for people in rough jobs only now? And so he's responding, well, we're doing it now. In fact, I don't know how to translate the name of this institution he just named, but there is this institution that's been working on it for a while now, and a lot of things that we have been doing for professional careers have been going in this direction, and we have to continue. When this anger is expressed, we have to listen to it and accelerate our projects. This anger for Couchman, when he says this anger, it's the anger of the people who are working those very, very hard and difficult jobs. So, professional fatigue. So, nice. So the journalist asking, so anger needs to be expressed so that you step up and bring about change. Macron is probably no. I'm telling you right now that we started doing things. If I was sitting here telling you that we've already fixed everything, you would respond to me, well, you're being weird. People are out there protesting. People are unhappy. So he's dodging the question. He's dodging the question of, so people need to be angry, need to be out there to make you do something for them. And this means when they express themselves, that is also when we, in a democracy, must hear and listen to this legitimate anger that is expressed in a Republican context and bring an answer to it. So those answers that we've started bringing, they are not sufficiently strong and tangible, but we need to go further. Professional fatigue, proper career endings, and what was the last one? Oh yeah, professional conversion. The second thing is progression of the career. A lot of people who are protesting right now are saying there are people who don't work.
Et le système
That is something we need to respond with the work law and the procedure. Oh yeah, earlier he blamed the social parasites for the discontent of the people, and now he's like flipping back to this. He's doing this classic Macron thing of pivoting between sort of more like progressive social talking points to blaming it on the poor, blaming it on the unemployed, blaming it on the social parasites. It's this typical like centrist approach he has that's allowed him to get votes from both the center left and the center right. So now he's pivoting back to blaming the social parasites, the people benefiting from the social programs, but who aren't working, aren't contributing back into them.
Ils nous disent aussi, au fond, le travail paye pas assez.
In the end, they are telling us, well, work doesn't pay us enough.
Là aussi,
And there too, I want to tell you, we've done a lot for them. In 2019, we increased the activity bonus by 100 euros.
jamais les smicards n'ont autant eu leur
Never have minimum wage people had as big of an increase to their purchasing power.
depuis des décennies.
For
On a
decades.
augmenté ces 18 derniers mois le SMIC
We have increased in the last 18 months the minimum wage in France by 9.8%, more than inflation.
Ce que nous disent nos compatriotes qui manifestent sur
Nevertheless, we need to listen to the people who are protesting, not the retirement reform, but their work conditions. Live translation, yes. Well, it's not live, but yeah, I'm trying my best to like kind of live translate. I still need to pause though; it's really hard. Just came back from a walk through the Patagonian forest. Can totally recommend. Nice, that's awesome. They're not journalists, but Macron's propagandists. No, those journalists, honestly, are doing a pretty good job pushing back in... They're actually doing... I don't know if you actually listened to the whole speech, but like right now, for example, Macron was pivoting to this idea of like, hey, I know we increased the minimum retirement age by 2 years, but we hear those people who have really difficult jobs, and we are gonna do things for them. And the journalist is like, well, why are you doing this now? Why did you wait all this time to do this? And Macron then like bullshits for a few minutes because he has no answer to that, and then the journalist's like, oh, so you waited because Macron keeps saying this sentence that he hears people's anger, and the journalist in response to that was like, so people need to be angry for you to start doing things for them? And Macron was like, no, and then he like bullshits a bit more. But to anyone who understands what he's saying, it's clear as day, and the journalist did a good job of pressing him on that issue. I would not call those journalists he's facing here right now propagandists. They are not just being puppets or serving his agenda. Quite the contrary. Note, Manu isn't deaf. True. He's wrong. It's everybody's fault. Only a true centrist would know it. True. UN quality. Not that. I'm not that good. I would need a lot more practice to do UN quality translation. Aren't they just asking softballs? I don't think so. No. Some of the questions are softballs, but like I said, some of their questions are actually questions I like as someone living in France I want to hear. And now they're letting Macron get away with like. Thanks for the alert. They're letting Macron get away with like kind of in French you say noyer le poisson. That is like drowning the fish. They're letting him get away with it a little bit, but as far as like not making it into a confrontation, just keeping it as an interview, I think they're doing a really good job, honestly.
Premièrement,
Firstly, I wish that we engage with social partners, that is, unions and other representatives of the workers, and we wish to obviously right now they are opposing us, but we wish to re-engage the dialogue as soon as possible. Isn't that drowning the poison? No, the noyer de poisson. Poisson is fish. Poison is poison. So that we have in every branch that are beneath the legal minimum, of the minimum wage. There are actually plenty of fields of work that where people are compensated under minimum wage. So you are talking about social partners. What are the political partners that you will advance with on those issues? The partners will be every single one who is willing to work with us to advance on those subjects in the interest of our compatriots. And so I tell them, let's go work so we quickly find an answer for all those jobs that are not paid enough, jobs that were first and second line jobs. This is an expression that came during COVID. So first and second line jobs is supposed to talk about the essential workers. That's the right translation. So especially essential workers, and who continue to have wages that are under minimum wage. And we need to accelerate to improve that. Secondly, we need to work on careers. It's not a law that will fix careers, but we have to put back into the debate social dialogue so that careers help people make better lives. So he brings up some statistics. France has one of the best minimum wages compared to equivalent countries, he says. However, when it comes to the median salary is one of the closest to the minimum wage, which means that careers are crushed, are flattened in our country, which he says is a cause for despair for a lot of people in this country. So he's saying we were trying to find solutions to this. We removed, as you know, social contributions. We've given tax benefits in order to increase purchasing power. We are trying to, but we have to improve career progression in this country so that when people reach 45, 50, 55 years old, they see a progression in their life, so that they can tell themselves, well, now maybe I could convert to go to a different kind of job, something that doesn't harm my health anymore. At least I'll be better paid and have responsibilities that better fulfill my life. Marie Antoinette Pikachu face. Yeah. This is a little bit of a he himself admits. So he's proposing as a solution to have people have better careers when he himself admits that he has no power, no direct power over it. It's not like he can pass a law that will help people have better careers. And then he's talking about the gap between minimum wage and median wage, as if that was the cause for people's despair. No, it's the lack of purchasing power, especially nowadays with inflation. And when it comes to this idea of social inequality, it's the lack of there is this idea of there being a lack of social progression, of social movement in the French system, but unflattening the curve, I don't think is actually going to change. I don't think that's. I think that's just like a kind of like super liberal answer to the question that doesn't really address it. That's almost like trickle down economics, tier logic. Why don't the journalist propagandists ask Macron why his own parliament group refuses to increase the minimum payment of certain sectors compared to the law? We will see. We will see what the journalists respond to what he just said. Yes, now I can finally transition to a wagey cage job. Yeah, exactly. Like this is completely misunderstanding where the despair of the French people comes from. His response is tone deaf in a lot of ways. And well, his response there is, to what I hear in his response there, is not an appeal to the people doing minimum wage or living in difficult jobs, even though he presents it as that. What he's actually appealing to is people who are in jobs with like strong career progressions, people who are aspiring to make thousands and thousands of euros per month, who want to make as much as their boss, basically, and to live the good life. That is who he's actually giving this message to, even though he's using the words that are supposedly of like minimum wage and difficult jobs. Supposedly it's addressed to those people, but that's bullshit. I don't buy into that.
Ces réformes, Monsieur le Président, c'est Elisabeth Borne qui est la bonne première ministre.
Okay, so they aren't pushing back on the on what his party's done for the minimum wage. To be fair, Etigal, I imagine they didn't really expect the like pivot to the minimum wage discussion. They probably don't. They probably don't. I would considering what the how the discussion's been until now, I would have expected them to bring it up if they like had prepared for that specific topic. He's talking to his younger backers, upper middle class. Exactly, exactly. And boomers that feel like they were those aspirationists. Yes, yes, exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. This like upper middle class people who, you know, they aren't paid great right now, so that they will see like, oh yeah, I have like this IT job or this like lawyer job or whatever, but I'm entry level, so I'm barely making more than minimum wage. I feel what he's saying. I want to make like 5,000 euros a month, like my boss. What can he even do to avoid raising the retirement age? We've moved past that topic. No, the arguments for raising the retirement age are sound, honestly, economically speaking. They make a lot of sense. I'm not even gonna like argue with you on that. He's presented good arguments for that. Anyways, okay, so let me roll it back and translate the question.
Soit au moins, je serais mieux payé, j'aurais des tâches qui reconnaissent mieux les choses. Ça, c'est du dialogue social et c'est
Est-ce
indispensable.
que pour mener ces réformes, Monsieur le Président, c'est Elisabeth Borne qui est
Alors
la bonne
attendez, je vais
première
revenir sur le
ministre?
champ
So concerning those reforms, it's Elizabeth Bourne who is the first minister.
politique. Je voudrais finir sur le fond.
I'll come back to you concerning the political aspects of this, but I want to continue about the core issues
Sur le travail.
with work.
Essentiel.
It is an essential topic.
Du travail, mais il faut le rendre plus concret. Donc, moi, je-
We've begun this workshop about the work in France, but we need to continue. I want to truly
avec les partenaires sociaux,
engage with social partners very quickly on all those topics.
il faut le préparer.
By what date, she asks, and he's saying we need to prepare within the next weeks.
Un mois pour
Let's give ourselves 3 to 4 weeks.
pas des grandes discussions et des grandes messes.
We don't need what we don't need is grande discussion and grande messe. He's saying what we don't need is like large public debates.
Autour de la table.
Vous avez commencé à appeler les syndicats?
Have you started calling unions?
Cette manifestation, je les engage. Mais derrière,
He responds, well, they're going to protest tomorrow. I respect that protest. Basically, he'll get in contact with them afterwards. No, it is not a good argument. A lot of gifts have been given to the companies without results at all. Well, the thing is, and like I had a discussion with I don't you see him in chat, Turnit. Turn's a socialist, and I think I fully agree with him. There is there is a moment where you have to admit that the system of retirement, if you want to keep it working the way it's working, is you need to keep it balanced. You need to keep the money coming in and the money coming out balanced, and that has a lot to do with demographics and wages and the way work. You can say communist. Okay, sure. And the way the way wages are spread out in a capitalist society. So, like, unless as long as you agree that we should work within a free market and some form of capitalist society, even like a social democracy form of capitalist society, there still is a need to balance the budget in some way or other. And that is kind of what Macron has been saying, and I don't think that's something you can deny. No matter what you propose as an alternative, you can change the system. For example, you can change the system so that it's no longer no longer a balanced system with the workers paying the retirement. It could be a system where the government pays the retirement. And then the money needs to come from some form of taxes, et cetera, and then you could say, yeah, sure, let's tax entrepreneurship, or let's tax this, let's tax that, or richer people, etc. Those are things you can propose, but that is not that is not the path he chose to take. He wants to keep the system as it was intended to work, and that's what he described in the first part of his speech, or his interview rather. An easy solution would be raising the minimum wage by like 10%. Pepe laugh. Problem is the unions don't give a shit about it, though they won't say it. Wait, why are you saying that, Nablus? I don't understand anything in your sentence. People would absolutely support raising the minimum wage in France. Return to feudalism, yeah. If you want retirement, you gotta let the bosses take their pound of flesh. Balance the budget. Sir Livy introduced you to modern monetary theory. He did make lip service to it when he talked about deficit. And the thing is, Macron doesn't want to increase the deficit of France. I think that's clear as well. France has taken on a lot of deficit during COVID, and it does make sense to want to like pull the brakes on it a little bit. There's no future in France. We've locked all of the industry that could give a chance to the next generation to be able to make a living wage in France. Yeah, so Macron has been claiming that he's been fighting a fight for the reindustrialization of France in this interview. And I don't know how true that is, honestly. I have not heard much about it. Well, I've heard the unindustrialization of Europe because of the energy crisis. I've heard that topic of conversation. But so Macron is trying to kind of like say that he is addressing that issue that you're bringing up, Mr. Geek. Do you mean tech industries? Not just tech. He means he doesn't mean tech industries, but he also means like classic industries, manufacturing and stuff like that. Unions fight for the people they represent. Union jobs aren't minimum wage jobs. Depends on the field. But in France, the unions, in France, ideologically, the unions come from a strong socialist ideology. And that informs their approach as well. Why not go back to having people lighting street lamps by hand too? Yeah, fuck that. Do you want to work in a factory? Fuck no. I hear you, Mr. Geek. I hear you, yeah. Landphobe, you actually believe... You actually still fucking believe the... What was it? Glenn fucking Greenwald's bullshit paper about how the America blew up Nord Stream? Dude, there's been like really interesting reports from the Russian police and the U.S. intel about, and it's funnily enough, like that would actually serve your like wacky pro-Russian narrative. Right now, it is very strongly, it is very strongly, very strongly suspected that that it was it was Seymour Hersh, not Greenwald. I'm sorry. It is very strongly suspected that it was a pro-Ukrainian organization that operated that did the attack, and also Seymour Hersh's story was basically debunked by OS intelligence. Right, so Edgar, I know what you're talking about, right? So the Conseil d'orientation des retraites said that indeed, in most scenarios, the budget is balanced for retirement, and I've heard about that. So the thing I've also heard though. Look, Landfill, the problem... Okay, sorry, fuck, this is like two conversations at the same time. Okay, Landfill, this is the last one. Stop fucking, like shut the fuck up after this. The problem is Seymour Hersh made publicly verifiable claims in his report. Those publicly Seymour Hersh didn't present a covert operation. What Seymour Hersh presented was an operation ran under like in the public eye, under false pretenses, but in the public eye. So which means that every single one of his claims are verifiable, since he claims that the operation was ran by ships that were doing registered public operations in the scope of those Baltic operations thing. So yes, Seymour Hersh's story pretty much has been debunked. All right, I'm fucking tired of you. Fuck off. Anyways, so the Conseil d'orientation des... yeah, so Edgar is bringing up, and it's true that there's the report. I'm not shitting on a reporter who exposed war crimes. I didn't say anything personal against him, Magic Turtle. I'm saying his story specifically concerning the operation was debunked. Yes, it happened during a training exercise, and the movements of the ships, the movements of the planes for every single like incident that he reports on are of public affair. You can look up the records for the movements of those vehicles. Like they were not running dark, is the thing. So yes, there is a problem in his story. Anyways, so Etigal, I know what you're talking about. This report. And it's true that the Conseil d'orientation des retraites does say that there is no deficit in the retirement scenario, which is why originally I was against this whole idea of changing the retirement system. But then I heard François Bayrou make the claim that the system works right now because it's being propped up by government funding. So I actually need to fact check that, which I probably should have done before saying stuff. So let's check it real quick. Oh god, I need to like make a second scene. I want to make like the scene where my head's big, but I need to make a different scene where my head's small to like read stuff on stream. Bayrou is in the majority. I know. Bayrou is part of but that doesn't mean he's that in and of itself doesn't mean he's necessarily wrong, right? Okay, let me do something real quick here. Let's duplicate this scene. Yeah, let me call it. Let me move it up. All right, and let's change. Oh, but fuck, it's gonna change stuff on the other scene because it's the same fucking components. Okay, never mind. All right, let's do it the janky way. Let me just do it like this. All right, so what I was gonna check. Est-il vrai que les retraites okay, the budget okay, retirement reform. Is it true that the government has a reserve of multiple billions to finance the retirement? This argument shows up often on social media. Our retirement system, in reality, has hundreds of billions of euros in reserve. What is that is exactly 206 billion euros. It exists indeed. The Conseil d'orientation des retraites, the body managing the retirement funds, explains that in this report. On top of the excédent, on top of the extra that some of the retirement funds have, a small part belongs to special regimes, such as that of the employees of the French bank or the French central bank. But those are sums that have been provided by the employees of the institution that are owed back to them. So those are billions that do exist but don't belong to the system. They aren't a reserve that can be used to prop up the system. The state also has put some money on the side. The Retirement Reserve Fund, created in 2001, is since 2011 used to mop up the deficit of the social debt, and there's only 26 billion euros left. Given that the future deficit of the retirement system will be 12 billion euros per year starting in 2027, the retirement fund reserve will quickly run out. So there is this self-contradicting story constantly. No, Magic Turtle, I was okay. Well, Jesus fucking Christ. Magic Turtle, you've been here. You've been in this chat. You've interacted. You've seen Landphobe interact with people. He is a fucking Russian propaganda mouthpiece. I was talking to Landphobe, okay? I wasn't making an attack on you. I wasn't making an attack on Seymour Hersh. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. I call Landphobe pro-Russian because he's fucking pro-Russian. Because he's fucking delusional and pro-Russian. He's like a constant Russia Today feed in my chat. I'm super obnoxious about it. If he was just a Russia Today feed, like, I would even be okay with that. But he's like a fucking dick about it too. And I'm tired of it, and that's why I fucking banned him, and that's why I call him pro-Russian, because he is pro-Russian. Jesus Christ, let's never fucking talk about him again. God fucking damn it. I'm so fucking tired of that shit. Like, sorry, Magical, but like, I'm like, I've been dealing with this bullshit for weeks now, and I've been trying to be tolerant of it because I want to be tolerant of differing opinions and all that stuff, and I can't. I actually fucking can't. Okay. So like, please don't argue with me on this. I'm actually triggered. I can confirm. Thank you, Couchman. Anyways, so Etigral. I'm constantly seeing this like contradictory. I'm constantly seeing this contradictory opinion, which is that on the one hand, like I know the report you're talking about how the Conseil d'orientation de retraite, the COR, indeed has reported that there is not going to be a budget deficit, but I've also seen so I think this is, I would like to see the source on this, but I've also seen this exact number, the 12 billion. That's the number that Bayrou was citing in his interview. So there's this like there's like two completely contradictory narratives. Obviously, it's one or the other, but there is a problem here for sure. The new OSINT about the Ukrainians is actually propaganda to make the Ukraine seem strong. Come on. It's not that. Like considering it looks fucking bad, right? It's a fucking shit show. If the Ukrainians basically did, if you like a pro-Ukraine organization, because the Ukraine government is denying the whole thing. If a pro-Ukraine organization basically did a terror, like what's basically like a terrorist attack against infrastructure that belongs to Germany and pretty much Europe, that is diplomatically pretty problematic. Okay. I don't have the same reading you have of that situation. No, I don't see it as like beneficial propaganda for Ukraine. Quite the contrary. Okay. All right. Fuck. Lost like fucking half my viewership to this landfill rant too, and like going into this. I don't know, Etikad, I don't know if you're still here, but like. It's one or the other, right? Either the budget is balanced or it's not balanced, but there clearly is a problem with one of the narratives. I'd like to see est-il vrai que des retraites So in the same report from the Conseil d'orientation pour les retraites, there will be a deficit, a strong deficit starting in 2025, right? That's what I'm reading right here. I don't know. I guess I should like actually fucking read that report, because like people are quoting the same report whether they're for the retirement reform or against the retirement reform, and they're coming to completely opposite conclusions when it comes to that. So like here you got an article saying that overall, according to the COR's same report, the retirement regimes will could find their balance again, but they will be deficitary. So the retirement system was deficitary of 13 billion euros in 2020, and in 2021 was excedentary. All right, here we have the graph actually shown by the Right. Okay, let me show this real quick. So Etigal, right? This is the graph from the COR. A return to the balance is possible in half of the scenarios. So that is indeed what we've seen in the report and from people. Is that it is possible that the retirement system balances itself out. However, well, it depends on the productivity level of future workers, as well as the state continuing its public contribution. It's already deficitary. Like what Bayrou was saying is true. The system is already deficitary and it's being propped up by state contributions in order to keep it balanced. A return to balance is possible, more or less rapidly, without needing a new reform in 4 scenarios. This could happen by 2030, 2040, or at the latest 2070, depending on the economic growth. But that requires the state accepts to pay the deficit while maintaining, in the years to come, a constant GDP relative contribution to the retirement fund. So it is already deficitary. This narrative that the system is like is going to balance itself out, it misses a part of the context from the same report, which is indeed what I thought. But I wasn't sure, so I wanted to fact check it. I don't want to like get that wrong. Anyway, sorry. All right, let's get back to the interview then. Sorry for the interlude. Where were we at? Let me go back like 10 seconds, see what question we're dealing with right now.
Faut pas des grandes discussions et des grandes messes. Discussions concrètes où on est tous autour de la table.
Vous avez commencé.
All right, so he's saying we shouldn't have like grand oratory gestures. We need concrete discussions around the table. So he's going back to like what he was talking about, how he wants to change the work environment for French people. And help provide solutions, whether it's for like professional fatigue and other situations. So he's talking about how he conceives of the dialogue. And so okay, let's see. What's she going to ask? Oh yeah, have you called the unions? Oh yeah, we already translated this. He's going to say that he's waiting for them to stop protesting because they're going to protest tomorrow. Beyond this, there is the meaning of work. I'm stricken by, and that's why I'm saying we need a lot of compassion and patience. We've had protesters who've been saying, for us the problem isn't retirement, we just don't want to work anymore at all. Which is an image that has been making the rounds on on French social media, and it's kind of been using, like, especially for people who are more like centrist conservative, kind of as a foil of like, look at those young people. It's not even about retirement for them. They just don't want to work. There's been basically this big sign held up in front of one of the protests saying, like, we don't even care about retirement, we just don't want to work. So that's what he's referring to here. Because there has been, and we have this crisis in a lot of Western countries. We helped a lot during COVID. And everything, and people's like points of reference got kind of skewed during that time. And that is why we need to convince people to be more responsible. For quite a while, we've paid people for not working in order to protect the country. And now we found a different balance. And now, so the relationship with work, we need to rebuild it and give back a meaning to work. Those aren't my intentions, those are my commitments.
Quel gouvernement avec quelle première ministre est-ce que Elisabeth Borne a toujours votre confiance?
And so with what government, with what prime minister do you want to do all of this? Does Elisabeth Borne still have your trust?
Oui.
Yes. I trust Elisabeth Borne. Next, we have to have the trust of the parliament. It's an important institution. She has decided, after examining the situation, for this reform, in order to make sure that it goes through, She wanted to engage the responsibility of her government. That is what we call the 49.3. So once again, for anyone who hasn't been following French politics, 49.3 is basically the French executive order. It's a way of forcing a law through without having to deal with the normal democratic procedure of vote in the parliament. It's the 100th time we've done it in our republic. It's a very serious gesture. She's taken the responsibilities with her government. If you have and she's told the government, if you have an alternative majority, express yourselves, because there is a recourse to the 49.3. It is the vote of no confidence, which failed on Monday. They missed the threshold by 9 votes. If they had succeeded, they would have forced Macron's government to be evicted. On Monday, it was shown that they did not have that majority. By 9 votes, the journalist reminds. Yes, but we can be president of a republic by a single vote. I believe that with a lot of will. It shows something. Even in the moment of great political unrest, there is no alternative majority. Second, and about Elizabeth Borne, going back to her, she has your trust. Does she have it for how long will she have it? For weeks? For months? She has my trust in order to lead this government. What I have asked of her on the basis of this, because there are also the different priorities of building a legislative program of government in partnership with the President of the Parliament and the Senate, in order to have less shorter texts of law, more simpler, clearer texts of law, in order to also change things for our compatriots in more practical ways that don't go through law. In this context, we have to act in service of our compatriots' priorities, do it in very concrete ways with our elected representatives on the ground, with our state's services. Those are things that don't go through law. And we... wait, sorry, what did you just say?
Le faire de manière très concrète avec les élus sur le terrain, avec les services de l'État, et tout ne passe pas par la loi.
And everything, par la loi dans notre République. Oh yeah, and everything doesn't go through the law, and we go too much through the law in this republic. He says kind of facetiously. Okay. I have to take a break here. Hey, Orson Welsh, welcome to the stream. How are you doing? Hope you enjoyed. We're currently going over the Macron speech this afternoon. Since he's responding to basically the political situation right now in France with the forcing through of the retirement reform. This is very interesting, the way he puts it, because oh, you're French. Okay, then you know a lot about it. This is very interesting that he puts it in this way, because he's talking about how things are done too much through the law in France, right after forcing through a law with the 49.3 procedure. That is kind of sick to flip around from Elisabeth Borne and the 49.3 is like the democratic process, etc., and then be like, hey, by the way, well, we go through law too much, okay? Let's just give all the power to the executive branch. Why do we even separate powers? Why don't we look at Charles de Gaulle, right? He was a strong leader. I'm getting like a weird disdain for the separation of powers from what he's saying here, and it's honestly making me uncomfortable. It's actually making me. Yeah, too much is done legally. Oh crap! My alert didn't work. Wait, let me fix it real quick. Oh no, properties, refresh cache. Let's do it again.
I'm a little uncomfortable with that.
There you go. I'm a little uncomfortable with that. Too much is done legally. Like, since when? Since when do you listen to a president? There are a few sentences.
With that.
There are a few sentences he said during this interview that just, like, I don't understand. And this is one of them. How can you have a leader of a democratically elected leader in a democratic country complain about things being done legally through rule of law, through separation of power, through democratic institutions. This is the wrong way to approach things. This is him saying that he wants to be more expeditious. He wants to have the capacity to bring about more changes without having to be responsible, to be held responsible to anyone or anything. That's what I hear from that. A thing that makes people mad is that he uses the expression regular democratic process. Yeah, a lot of people don't see the 49.3 as a regular democratic process. A lot of people see it as something that should only be used in an emergency situation, which, to be fair, Macron does believe that it is an emergency situation. And honestly, I talked with someone else from France earlier here in chat. I don't know if he's still here. I actually do believe that, economically speaking, if you want to balance out the retirement funds, you do need to do some kind of reform. And that reform is either balancing out the system the way it was designed, which is what Macron did, by making sure that there's more workers to fund more retirees, or you earmark money from the government to fund it, which is what has been done since 2001. Since 2001, we have been setting aside money from the government that has been compensating for deficitary years in the retirement fund. And if that money continues coming, then the retirement fund is stable, right? We've all seen that COR report that the retirement fund will be stable until under most scenarios until 2050. But clearly, Macron wants to free that money and make the system self-sustainable. And that is kind of where he's coming from. And I understand that. I can understand that. But yeah, is the 49.3 regular democratic process? I think it's dishonest to present it that way as well.
Et ensuite, de bâtir un programme de gouvernement.
And next, to build a governance program so that things are clearer and more ambitious and appeasing. And in this context, the mandate that I've been given, or that I have given Born, is to continue to enlarge this majority as much as she can, with women and men of goodwill from the right wing or left wing or ecological wing are ready on the priorities that I've fixed and the government program that she'll work on to advance with her. Maybe not on every text. I'm not saying here that we will be able to build a bipartisan coalition government. Hi, in my humble opinion, from an aging country, as long as people keep getting older and the population shrinks, supporting pensions is much harder. Well, yeah, that's exactly that. It is an economic reality that Macron is talking about. And there are a lot of things I've criticized in this interview, a lot of things I've criticized with Macron in general, but I keep having to come back to this idea that I don't think on this specific issue, he's necessarily wrong. I actually don't think he's wrong on this specific issue. The problem is that we are in a France where Macron has consistently disappointed, disdained, and in people's eyes mistreated them for years now. And this is kind of like just the straw that breaks the camel's back. It's not even necessarily about the law itself. It's about yet another instance of him, at least the way people see it, forcing his will on them. In Greece, it's very rough with pensions. Yeah. Well, Greece's economy is definitely has had a lot of problems in the past 20 years for sure. Welcome back, Magic Turtle.
On ne l'a pas fait au début du quinquennat, c'est pas notre tradition politique.
We haven't done all those things at the beginning of the 5 years. That's not part of our political traditions.
Mais par désaccord. Oui, mais je suis obligé de regarder de manière très lucide que c'est ce qu'on a tenté au début du quinquennat. Et ce qui
I have to concede. I have to show that this bipartisanship is something that we've attempted at the beginning of the 5 years of the presidency. And it was not successful. But we have to have a lot of respect and appreciation for a lot of parliamentaries who came in support of this text. They were not the totality of a party. That is why it's hard to build coalitions. But there are individuals, political individuals with their own convictions, who are ready to work with my majority. So I wish that the Prime Minister be able to build bridges to enlarge the majority in the following weeks, and I hope that she will succeed. On top of this softer approach, concerning the method, no change of Prime Minister, no change of your cabinet, no dissolution of the parliament, no referendum, no change to your method. The method is not just what you've listed. You listed political acts. What I'm talking about is responsibility. We need to appease, and we need to rebuild a parliamentary agenda with reforms and re-engage with the unions and the other political forces who are ready to engage with us. This is a method that we need to re-engage with. But next to that, a lot of those things we've already been doing for a year. That is why so many texts have been able to pass, despite only a relative majority. Texts on energy, financial reforms, energy sovereignty. That is why we've been able to also pass texts concerning unemployment law. Which, by the way, it's funny that he mentions, going back to what I was talking about earlier, this like constant pivoting from left-wing talking points to right-wing talking points. The unemployment law changes. What he's actually talking about there is when he nerfed unemployment law. He basically he saw the way that people were, like after COVID, were loath to go back to work. And his solution was to nerf unemployment payments all across the board, basically. Not the amounts, but basically like put you on a really much more stricter clock to find a new job if you're on unemployment. Oh, I bet people unironically call him a dictator. They've been doing that for a while, actually. You guys have less tolerance. We're still alive even after protests, cuts, etc. Good, you guys react more. Will a new leader be better than Macron, though? Like, is the opposite party better? Well, the thing is, Macron is a centrist leader. What's opposite him is both the like right wing and especially the far right wing, and the left coalition, or the far left. To put things simply, they all suck. Yeah, all parties nowadays suck. I mean. I have a lot of problems with Macron, and I'm constantly bringing them up in this discussion, but God, no. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you're like, much more left-leaning than me. Mélenchon sucks. I would 100% prefer Mélenchon to Marine Le Pen, or God forbid, this fucking Zemmour, but Mélenchon sucks too, man. It's a rough scene. Hey, Jokesta, how are you doing? Welcome to the stream. We're currently we are 24 minutes in. There's 10 minutes left. We're currently analyzing, and I'm doing the live translation of Macron's interview today, this afternoon, in which he addresses the discontent and all of the all of the big changes happening in French politics right now. You would have actually enjoyed a lot of what he's been saying, Jokesta. And honestly, at this point, I have to admit, I'm like actually behind the reform. I already told you like the 2 days ago that I've kind of like changed my mind, and like doing some more research. I did like a little bit of fact checking on some things I wasn't sure about earlier in this stream. I actually kind of support the reform in and of itself. The left can be more right than they think here. Our last left minister said he'll take second homes from citizens to give to refugees. Let's just take homes from people that build them because we can. Expropriation is pretty extreme. This is gonna be a hot take. I do actually prefer a system where you have expropriation but you don't have homelessness. I do think that long term that is potentially better for the people. But it's also understandable that that government fell. Like that's also going to introduce a lot of instability, and it's not certain that the instability isn't going to outweigh the potential benefits of the of the expropriation in the first place. Expropriation is a really dangerous route in governance to take. It's not something I generally support either. The government didn't pay for my home, though. Yeah, I imagine. Well, yeah, it was like... It wasn't even like a forced buy. It was just expropriation. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, that's fucked up.
Donc oui. Après, le changement, il est dans l'apaisement.
So,
la co-construction d'un agenda
bringing change is in appeasement and the co-construction of a parliamentary agenda. Because he's been, in this question, in this phase of the interview, he's been talking about how he wishes for his prime minister to build a bipartisan majority in the parliament in the following weeks and months.
L'ensemble des forces des deux chambres. Et
together with all the forces in the two chambers being the Senate and the Parliament. And wait, you're a Social Democrat too? Yes, I am. Yeah, let me listen to that again.
Dans l'apaisement, la co-construction d'un agenda parlementaire avec l'ensemble des forces des deux chambres et je dirais être plus engagé.
I would say be more engaged on the terrain, more responsive on the terrain to the compatriots' questions and issues. Wait, you're a Social Democrat too? First person on Twitch that isn't extreme. No, there's a few of us. There's a few of us. But you're right. A lot of Twitch politics is very extreme and very divisive. That is true as well. And hey, and also being more centered isn't necessarily not an extreme. Macron has been called an extreme centrist, and I actually like that term. Most I see are either Nazis or communism. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. And with what just happened, are you now telling us that you are not condemned to immobility because there are still 4 years in your mandate? We've been hearing that several of your projects have been postponed. So also, thank you for the follow, Greek Mango.
Prochain mois, je vais vous le dire.
Est-ce que la loi immigration arrivera?
Is the immigration law going to get to the Senate in the next week? So yes, this is indeed what part of our discussions with the President of the Senate and the members of the Parliament. We will reorganize things and cut up our law projects. There will indeed be an immigration law proposed. There will be several texts proposed, and they will arrive in the coming weeks. However, nowadays, we don't have the right for our country to... Okay, it's not about right. We have a duty to not let ourselves be condemned to immobility. We cannot let ourselves be stalled, be unable to do things for our country. We don't have we cannot do that. Many of our compatriots express fear because they are scared of change. They are scared of great changes. We have a feeling of we have a feeling of deterioration when we are lacking specific important things like aspirin, when we see our services deteriorate.
Les mots utilisés par Édouard Philippe. Immobilisme, c'est l'assurance du déclassement, a-t-il dit.
Oh, sorry. So Edouard Philippe, one of Macron's ministers, said that the immobility of the government is the... wait, let me roll it back, hear the full quote.
Quand on dit on n'a plus de paracétamol, nos services publics sont de plus en plus en difficulté, c'est le
résultat. Ce sont les mots utilisés par Édouard Philippe. Immobilisme, c'est l'assurance du déclassement, a-t-il dit.
Il était à mes...
Immobility is the assurance of declassment, or meaning like the deterioration of our system. He's basically saying that, so Edouard Philippe, Macron's minister, and now Macron is basically saying the things the same effect. Basically that, if the government loses the possibility to pass law, to take action because of this, it will have grave consequences for the country.
Côté, hier matin, avec l'ensemble des responsables de la majorité. Justement.
So indeed, we're trying to build a consensus to engage everyone. That is what I was saying in 2017 and what I'm saying nowadays. Why are we here? Because for decades, we have made people used to spend and not produce. produce less and less. Okay, this is false. Productivity overall has increased in all Western countries. This kind of goes back to what he was saying earlier when he was offering like more right-wing talking points, when he was complaining about the parasites of the social system and decrying them as a part of the problem that is causing French people's discontent, kind of like deflecting the discontent that's directed towards him towards the parasites of the social system. And so now I feel like he's kind of doing that same type of deflection now.
Entre 1980 et 2010, avant même la
Between 1990 and 2010,
détruit 2 millions d'emplois industriels et continuer à
2 million industrial jobs were destroyed, and we've continued spending money. So we've made the French people used to hearing that don't worry, we're everything's fine. We have a great social system.
Vous aurez de plus en plus de droits.
You will have more and more benefits, and we'll produce less and less. It doesn't work that way. It's a lie.
Donc, qu'est-ce qu'on fait?
So what are we doing since 2010?
On mène cette bataille.
We are fighting this battle of
Cœur de la bataille.
ensuring full employment and reindustrializing France.
Cette société du plein emploi. Et on
The
est
society of full employment, and we are currently succeeding at it. We passed from 9% unemployment to 7%, which, by the way, this is dishonest the way he's quoting it. The 9% unemployment, that's like COVID pandemic financial support statistics. Yes, we've recovered from COVID times when everyone had basically unlimited unemployment. Incredible. Wow, what an achievement. Fellow centrist social democrat here. Nice. Our golden age was with social democrats. Yeah, I like social democracy for sure. That part was pretty sus, saying sometimes the law gets in the way, lol. But there should still be a way to veto, right? No, the way to veto this law was the vote of no confidence, and it failed. The only thing that can still veto the law project from Macron is the Constitutional Council or the Constitutional Court. The Constitutional Council is currently going to review the law. Both the left-wing and the right-wing parties have petitioned them to block the law. And yeah, if the law is deemed unconstitutional, then it will not pass. That is the last veto option that exists. There is no other one left in the institutions. EU, let's accept immigrants we cannot support without asking for any requirements. Also EU, oh my god, parasites. You let them in, Macron. Yeah, it's not just he wasn't specifically referring to immigration with those sentences. But that's something I agree on in general, that we should be taking in more immigrants, but we should be taking them in responsible ways. We shouldn't just be taking them in and then having them be homeless, having them build shanty town, like live in shanty towns and so on and so forth. I'm fine with full employment, only if they don't get to decide what people do, yeah. Well, that's good. I didn't know if there was something in place. Well, it's probably not going to affect. It's probably not going to affect the situation. Honestly, the Constitutional Council only intervenes for like strict constitutional issues. For example, during COVID, there was the Constitutional Council acted against some of the sanitary measures because it was judged that you cannot restrict someone from going somewhere because they're not vaccinated. That was judged unconstitutional. So the sanitary pass included the possibility of getting tested. That was judged constitutional. So that's like an example where the Constitutional Council saw a law project, was like, nope, this doesn't work. It bounced back to the government. The government was like, okay, let's change this part. So, okay, now you don't need to be vaccinated. You just need to prove that you're not infected, and then you can do things. And then the Constitutional Council was like, okay, yeah, this is okay. I doubt there's anything unconstitutional with this law project. It's not going to change anything. It's basically as good as passed, honestly. Let's ask, do I have are you asking me, Greek Mango? I don't have a degree. I am a higher education dropout, though I have basically self-taught, I'm a self-taught software developer. No, I meant let's ask that to immigrants. Oh, okay. Oh yeah, let's. Do you know the language, the culture? So yeah, yeah. Most countries do have programs in place of that kind, right? The thing is, you're also like, if we're talking about immigration, you also have to be careful because you can't conflate two different things. Like legal normal immigration in France, for example, you do pass tests that show that you know minimum things about the country, the language, the culture, and so on and so forth. There are various like requirements. Then when we're talking about refugees, we're talking about asylum seekers. And international law, you may disagree with it, but the way international law is structured is that countries have to give asylum to people who are fleeing horrible situations in their countries, whether they're fleeing political persecution, or whether they're fleeing like persecution on the basis of their race, their sex, their sexual orientation, etc., etc. Those are things that on paper we have to take those people in and give them a chance to build a new life in our countries. And I like that, honestly. I like the ideals that those laws are founded upon. Now, the sad reality is that a lot of countries who officially have signed those international laws don't necessarily respect them. They find loopholes. They find ways to prevent people from even setting foot on the ground because then they need to take responsibility for them, et cetera, et cetera. But like there are like many different discussions if we're talking about immigration, and there are many different kinds of immigration. You can't just lump everything into one big bucket. Is basically what I'm trying to say. Basically, it lets them do what they want, then ask for forgiveness after. Wait, what are we talking about, Jokes, though? I'm sorry, I'm not sure which part of the conversation you're responding to, Jokes, though. Anyways, back to the interview.
On parle ces dernières semaines, ils sont à 5% de taux de chômage. Le plus bas depuis plus de 15 ans.
I say, so he's talking about unemployment again. Now he's citing 5%. Oh, the French court thing. Yeah, the French court thing. Yeah, you can ask for anything as a law, and then the French court thing will verify that it's constitutional. I don't see it as like, doing what you want and asking for forgiveness. It's more like, yeah, you can propose a law and they'll tell you whether it works or not.
Et on a le taux de chômage des jeunes le plus bas depuis des décennies. On a le taux
le
plus élevé depuis qu'on le mesure.
We have one of the lowest unemployment rates among young people in the past several decades, and we have the highest activity rate ever since we started measuring it, he says. I'm a little bit skeptical of it because it's interesting. He separated the mention of unemployment and activity rate, which means that there is a technicality. It means that there is a technicality between the two. And I suspect that the technicality there probably concerns precarious jobs, such as the interim jobs, like delivery workers, all those jobs that have very little protections and very poor work conditions and poor pay. I suspect that those are counted as being active, but they aren't necessarily counted as not being unemployed. So I think it's a bit of a it's a bit of like there's a bit of doublespeak here in representing the statistics going on.
Et on réindustrialise.
And we're reindustrializing France. We're opening more factories than we've been closing, which is a first for a long time now. We have created more industrial jobs and we're creating new ones. It's the heart of the battle, and that supposes what? That we take responsibility for the fiscal decisions we've made for entrepreneurship in the country. If we want to continue to reindustrialize, we need to continue with more work and more capital in our country, on our grounds. Reindustrialize land that has suffered for a long time. We're going to make, I missed the name of the region, but it doesn't matter. We're going to make this specific region the heartland of electric batteries in our country. The east of France, we're going to do hydrogen and energy. Yes, we will continue to advance. All right, let me catch up with chat. Propose a law or make a law that is enforceable until deemed unconstitutional. No, it's proposing a law. It's proposing the law. The law doesn't go into effect until the Constitutional Council has reviewed it. The law doesn't go into effect until it's either been forced through by the 49.3 procedure and the vote of no confidence failed, and it also needs to be approved by the Senate. Yeah, the U.S. is the other way, which is fishy. Yeah, the way the U.S. does it is indeed fucked up. I agree. Unemployment typically is for the people looking for work. Labor participation rate is the percentage of people in the labor market. Okay. I'm interested in hearing what he classifies as reindustrialization. It's quite vague. So he's given some specific examples here, right? Energy sector, electric batteries. He's talked about factories in a vague way. But yeah, it's to me, it doesn't sound like a lie, Greek Mango, as much as it sounds like a red herring to me. I do believe him when he says that, we're opening new factories in France, we're bringing back factories. But what I'm wondering is, why is that the direction we want to go in? Why? What kind of economy, what kind of Western world economy wants more second sector economy? It is like developed nations build their wealth off of service sector economy. So I think it is very strange to insist so much on reindustrialization. To me, this sounds like basically populist talking points in order to win brownie points with people who have this like fantasy of the old France with the with like living wage basic workers in factories having like good lives. There is this like nostalgic fantasy that some people have of how the economy used to work. But that is bullshit. That is bullshit. I think it's like, to me that sounds like misplaced nostalgia. Honestly, you need investors. He's mentioned, and Macron has been good on that. And people who hate him have been discontent with that specifically. It's that Macron is, with his more like liberal, neoliberal approach, has been trying to make France more interesting for investors. He's been trying to attract investment and capital and all those levers and machinery of economic growth in a capitalist society. That is one of the core tenets of his approach. So it doesn't sound like a lie at all. I'm actually confused when looking at workforce participation. INSEE says 73%, but Eurostat says 55%, which is quite terrible. Yeah, it really depends on like, do they count like, yeah, we need to do like a deep dive in the definitions and how they specifically count those statistics. If you don't know how exactly they count the statistics, just throwing the numbers around is pretty worthless, because the statistics get gamed all the time because of true definitions. Investors would be good, but it depends on how they will take advantage of that. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree.
Ces réussites, selon vous,
those successes, according to you, the reindustrialization, the rise in employment, indeed, why don't French people perceive this as a success? Why are they angry? So firstly, I think we have to always be skeptical when we say the French. If the French didn't perceive this at all and were absolutely angry, undoubtedly, I wouldn't have been reelected less than a year ago. Okay, this is an outright lie. No, okay, this is a lie that comes again and again very often with Macron. Is he pretends as though he was given a mandate through popular approval. The people who voted for him voted for the lesser evil, because facing him was Marine Le Pen, representing the traditional far-right party that's basically the descendant of neo-Nazis and Nazi collaborators. Her party is the historical party of the collaborators in France with Nazi Germany. That is why people elected Macron, and it was actually close. Even with all that, it was close. And people are pissed at him for perceiving his victory as an actual mandate of the people. A lot of people who voted for him wish he understood that he was voted in as a compromise, and that as such he should compromise with the people who turned around to vote for him. But he does not see it that way, and he's once again reiterating that.
Une majorité relative, il y a encore moins longtemps. Bon. Donc il y a des gens qui sont en colère.
So there are people who are angry, but that doesn't mean that but that doesn't mean that everything's wrong for everyone. There are things that are working well. We are simply looking at the things that are going badly, but we are coming out of a situation which
Sur une forme d'illusion.
was relying on a form of delusion, and now we are re-engaging the country towards its future. And so I will continue to advance towards a clear goal. Firstly,
Le plein emploi et la réindustrialisation.
full employment and reindustrialization. That is the France of 2030. We need to become once again a great nation of research, innovation, and production. On this point, why haven't you done that before the? Why haven't you proposed that before the retirement reform? And he responds, well, we have been doing that for 5 years. But you're saying you yourself in 2019,
64 ans, s'il y a 55 ans, ils ont déjà du mal à trouver du boulot.
you yourself have said in 2019 that we cannot ask people to work until 64 when at 55 they're struggling to find a job.
On a beaucoup repris ce passage.
Many people have quoted this passage at me.
Clair avec vous, parce
I will be clear with you because I have the understanding of democracy and my mandate.
que quand je m'exprime et que je dis ça en
When I express myself saying that in 2019,
les ordonnances travaillent que depuis 18 mois. Ça fait 6
we had only begun the work ordinances since 18 months. Now it's been 6 years.
en œuvre avec les résultats que vous connaissez.
With the results that you're aware of, I'm expressing myself in a society where there's more than 8% unemployment.
Le mandat que j'ai en 2017,
The mandate that I got in 2017 was to create a universal retirement system, which is true. There is a problem with the French retirement system, just as far as like administration goes, where like a lot of different bodies and different types of jobs have different retirement funds and work differently. It is a proposal that he's made, which is to just unite everything into one single solidarity fund for all retirements and all fields of work.
pas de bouger l'âge de départ, parce que le rapport du Conseil d'orientation des retraites et tous les experts disaient il n'y a pas de problème.
And I didn't feel the need to I didn't feel the need to change the date for the retirement age, because all the reports from the bodies handling the budget were that there was going to be no deficit.
Après cette expression que tout le monde nous resserre,
After this quote that everyone's throwing back at me, what's happened in this country?
les gens vivaient dans quel monde? On a-
What world were people living in? What world have those people been living in? There has been COVID. There is war.
On a eu l'inflation.
There's
On
inflation.
a dépensé des dizaines de milliards d'euros pour protéger.
The nation has spent tens of billions of euros to protect.
C'est une dette qu'on amortit.
We have built a debt that we're now going to have to handle over time. And so,
Sont dégradés.
living conditions have degraded.
La situation est drastique.
In 2022, during the campaign,
Commencez à gagner la bataille.
the situation is completely different. We have begun winning the battle for full employment by progressively improving that situation.
Taux de chômage. Nous avons commencé à réindustrialiser.
We have begun to reindustrialize.
On commence à avoir une réponse.
What
Parce que
that is the response to all this,
tous les experts
one of the
disent, vous
responses.
avez un
And
problème.
all experts have been telling me that we have a problem with our retirement system. There is where we involve ourselves in. Well, and there are good reasons to involve yourself in there, but yeah. Oh yeah, this meme. Oh yes, this is such a good meme. Oh, let me full screen it. This is a classic. This is classic Macron. So everyone knows the political compass meme, right? Let me go full screen with this. Everyone knows the political compass. Have you seen Macron's political compass? Macron's political compass has a quote for every single part of the political compass. That's where you see how he's the true extreme centrist, the true great incarnation of the centrist politics. He's a Maoist. A good program is a program that works. Pétain, the great collaborator with Nazi Germany, was a great soldier. Africa has civilizational problems. The Brits were lucky to have Thatcher. The best way to afford a suit is to work. All you have to do is to cross the road to find a job. There is no French culture. White privilege is a fact. Colonization is a crime against humanity. Like, he's been everywhere. My advice to young people, go read Karl Marx. Yeah, that's a good one too. Radical centrism. Yeah. I honestly love this. This is a great meme, honestly. It's a really good one. And it is very representative of a lot of what Macron's been saying. If you are poor that just don't exist, true. Did we win France? Not quite. Not quite. Depends on what you mean by winning, Yolobong and stuff. Hey, by the way, long time no see. How are you doing? Honesty forces me to tell you that I'm not a socialist. Yes, I'm a socialist. Like, just those two right next to each other. Yes, I'm a socialist. Honesty forces me to tell you that I'm not a socialist. I call it real politics. It is realpolitik in a way, for sure. Right, anyways, back to the video. Let's go back into full screen mode. There we go. Look at my beautiful face. All right, let's go. So yes, we need to be able to advance and engage those issues. That is the. So yes, the mandate that I ran on in 2022 was not the same one that I ran in 2017. So of course, things have changed. You have presented to us several projects that you want to launch in the following months. If we try to be concrete, what will be the emblematic measure? Wait, no, I'm going to stop you. Society doesn't work with just like one key law project.
Réindustrialisation plein emploi. La France de 2030. Il faut gagner la bataille de...
And then he does give the like soundbite. Reindustrialization and full employment by 2030. We need to revitalize a French decarbonated industry.
Le plein emploi et donc les textes que nous allons faire passer.
Full employment with the text that we will pass in order to put people back to work who are struggling, who are far from the workplace.
Tout le volet travail qui va derrière.
And succeed all of the issues with the workplace behind that. And secondly, Republican order. 200 more brigades of 200 more brigades of police. We don't need law for that. More judges, more magistrates in order to be able to judge people faster. Especially facing small crimes. Okay, once again, this is like a common theme. He says something that is going to be like populist left-wing, and then he does right-wing populism right after. Every single time. Now he's talking about petty crime. What the fuck does that have to do with anything? But here we go. He's talking about being tough on crime. And next to that, a law about military programmation. It would be a priority in the next months in order to reinforce our armies and protect us. Obviously, this is related to the war in Ukraine, the fact that France's stockpiles and military industry has been, the stockpiles have been set back and the military industry has been shown to be lacking for an actual war situation. That is the Republican order. And the third priority is progress to improve life conditions. School, health, and ecology. Those are our three priorities. School, I want next year that we can replace teachers so that I want us to be able to replace a teacher the next day in classes, which sounds kind of stupid when put that way, but what he's actually talking about is the difficulty in finding replacement teachers. Which is not the case nowadays. Well, that is a priority. Secondly, that we resolve the issues of education in rural zones, which then he caveats that by saying, well, we will probably have to we will have to continue, because he's saying we have been closing classes, but we'll have to continue closing classes when necessary. But that we at least improve the response with rural internships, with classes that cover multiple, oh god, what a horrible idea, classes that cover multiple years in a single classroom, so that we respond to the needs of the rural citizens when it comes to education.
Qu'on réforme le lycée professionnel.
that we reform the professional high school, which is indispensable in order for us to progress. So for those who don't know the French education system, the professional high school is basically if you go to high school, it's like technical school. You go to high school to learn a job. And if you don't plan to go to university, basically, you go to high school, you learn a job over the course of 3 years. You leave, you're 18, and you can work right away. So it's usually like for the sad thing is it's kind of being it's usually for the people who get left behind by education, because the way it works in like the elitist French system is you get people, all the kids who struggle in school, they just get sent there. They just get sent there. So it's kind of like the trash can of French education. So yeah, actually, like improving it would be a good thing. It does this. Those people do deserve better education, and they do deserve better outcomes in life. And but then the devil is in the details. What will Macron actually do about that is what I wonder.
Et les amener vers l'emploi,
Ça fait
la
beaucoup de
formation.
And bring them towards employment and formation. So the journalist responds, well, that is a lot of projects. And Macron says, well, yes, of course there's a lot of projects. There's a lot to do. They call that charter school in the States. Okay, thank you. Yeah, then that's charter school. Oh yeah, let me catch up with chat real quick. Counter-Strike 2.0, dang. Yeah, the trailers are dang. Yeah, I haven't watched them yet. I'm maybe for like tomorrow's or Friday's stream, I'm gonna just catch up on Counter-Strike news. I want to do that. I want to do like some gaming later this week too. Anyways, France sold too much or gave away to Ukraine, or a combination? No, it's because France's military-industrial complex has been. Oh no, vocational schools. Okay, it's not charter school. God, charter schools are private schools. Trade school. Okay, no, trade school sounds like the right term. Yeah, trade school sounds like the right term. Anyways, or vocational school, yeah. France gave away a lot to Ukraine, but the main issue is France's military-industrial complex has been in like sleep mode. You know how when you turn your computer into sleep mode, it's like ready to turn back on, but it'll need to boot up again and all that shit. It's actually not been ready to turn back on. It was supposed to be ready to turn back on, but it wasn't. The specialized workers from like vocational schools, notably, that are necessary, the industrial workers that are necessary in order for France to be able to produce enough artillery shells, to produce enough tanks, to produce enough artillery itself, to produce all the like basic industrial productions that are necessary for having a modern military, those workers no longer exist in France, because those jobs no longer have existed in France for years. The factories have been closed in like past decades. Right now, the reason why France hasn't sent their Leclerc tanks to Ukraine is because every single Leclerc tanks has right now, they cannot build a new one. The factory is closed, and the workers aren't in France or are in retirement now. The workers just aren't there. The factories aren't there. So France is not going to send any Leclerc tanks. What France did send is AMX-10 RCs, which they have a surplus of. Those are tanks from the 80s. Those are like old tanks that they had reserves of, and those they could send. And those they did send. When it comes to artillery, they sent France sent 1/3 of their Caesar artillery systems, 18 of them. But it takes years to build them, and now they have to build them again in order to come back to full capacity. And they still sold us Rafales. The Rafales are a different branch of the military of the military industry in France. The Rafales were always meant for export in the first place, and there's never been a problem building them for export from France. It's like different factories, different technologies, different specialized workers. The issue here is with the specific. It's not necessarily the same contractors in the first place, and even when it is, it's not necessarily the same factories building the same things. I'm talking specifically like small arms, artillery, and tanks. The ground war stuff. The ground war stuff is deficient. Has been shown to be deficient in France. My face when France tries to build weapons, but nobody remembers how. Exactly. Exactly. I'll sell you a tank. I see. Train more robots. Well, that would be one potential solution eventually, but also would require funding, capital, etc., etc. And Jokes was saying, if you are a popular centrist, unseating competing force, unseating them forces a competitor that is more extreme. When big data lets you accurately track the Overton window, others cannot compete. That is true. That is a truth in political science, actually. Jokes. What you just described is a truth and reality in political science. Is that a proper centrist politician will be able to navigate the Overton window of society to appeal to the greatest majority, and that is why political programs that actually go into effect in countries tends to be pulled towards the center. There are actual political science studies on this topic that I've personally read. And Dassault has a jet business that keeps a lot of workers proficient in building and designing airplanes. Yeah, exactly. So by exporting airplanes, the issue never was about the planes. And it's exactly that. The expertise is still in France when it comes to building fighter jets, thanks to the export business. But France hasn't been exporting Leclerc tanks. France hasn't been exporting Caesar artillery systems. So the expertise for those is very limited in France. All right, let's finish the video.
Des immenses ambitions. Ça, c'est l'école. La santé.
Those are talking about the different projects that Macron wants to take on in for the rest of his mandate. He's saying those are very ambitious projects. School, health. For this year, make sure that there is that everyone in France can find a general practitioner, which is a big problem in France. France has medical deserts. Even Paris, which is the most attractive part of France to work in as a doctor, is actually a medical desert. It's hard to find a general practitioner who will sign their name and say, I am going to be your general practitioner, allowing you to get refunded treatments in the social security system. When I go to the doctor, I don't get reimbursed. I only get reimbursed to 30%. I usually don't bother going the general practitioner route that's supposed to make me pay back, because it's a shit show. It's fucking horrible. It's hard. It's hard to even get an appointment with the GPs. So he's promising that he will address that. And she's asking, really? You promise that by the end of this year, by the end of 2023, you'll address those issues? And he's saying yes. It's part of the medical convention that the ministry is preparing, which are to affect to send general practitioners to the medical deserts. And to start the reform that we've begun, and to put into place the reform that we've begun drafting about concerning hospitals and the working conditions there. And to handle, once again, medical deserts where there is difficult access to hospitals or clinics. And now he's moving on to ecology. Starting the next weeks, we're going to need, just as how we've succeeded all together in winning the battle for energetic sobriety, for reducing energy consumption, we have to win the battle for sobriety when it comes to water. We'll have to preserve our water, use it in better ways. The water of our networks, the water of our wells, change our habits. The water, forests, the oceans, transport, housing, that is ecology. Those are very concrete things, but we have to accompany people for a just and durable transition. That is the next step. Full employment, reindustrialization, Republican order, better life, with better education, health, and ecology. And now maybe to conclude this, you are elected in 2017 and then last year in 2022 with the promise of being the president of all French people and to assemble people. One of the slogans was, all of us. Today, the country seems more fractured than ever. You said it yourself. Do you feel like you have failed at that? Do you have the feel of having lost having lost track of how to understand and speak to the French people.
Non, je veux dire,
No.
la réforme
I'll tell you, the reform we're doing right now is a difficult reform, is a very difficult one. We're asking a lot from people. It's never going to be popular.
on n'est pas concurrencé sur
We're
le
not-
responsabilité.
We are not in competition with anyone when it comes to the sense of responsibilities
Non plus. Je dis pas qu'on-
either.
On est beaucoup aidé.
We're helped a lot in this.
C'était retiré la réforme. Ils ont, bon.
We're helped a lot in this. So here he was referring back to earlier in the interview where he's saying that when people were asking him to just end the reform completely, that it was he's calling that irresponsibility. So he's saying that look at the opposition; they're making us look responsible, and they're making us look like the mature people.
Donc j'assume ce moment.
So I assume. I fully take on the responsibility for this moment.
Mais j'assume ce moment parce qu'il permet les autres.
I take it on because it will allow other people.
Ce qu'on a fait quand même, c'est
And I think that what we've done those past months with the National Council, with the re-engagement with territories, is something I want to continue. I see a vitality on the ground. I see French people who are ready to unite to have concrete answers to their issues in healthcare and
On
education.
voit des élus locaux formidables d'engagement.
I see local representatives who are engaging with their electorate in amazing ways.
Maire,
Ma question, vous n'avez pas de
Mayors.
regret.
So, concerning my question, no regrets?
je vous le dis. Si
I'm
j'en
telling
avais,
you,
c'est-
if I had a regret,
c'est voir convaincre
it's
la
to not have successfully convinced people about the necessity of this reform that it gives me no pleasure, but I have no regrets.
Je vis de volonté,
I have a will,
de ténacité.
a tenacity, an engagement, a commitment, because I love this country and its compatriots.
Faire ce qu'on doit
So I'm working to do what we have to do. There are hard moments that we have to assume, but
les engager toutes
we need to see them through till the end
transformations.
and commit to them to make this transformation. Most of what I've discussed were not laws.
C'est de l'engagement collectif.
They were commitments, collective commitments, because we all have something to do.
L'avenir du pays.
We all have something to contribute to the future of the country.
D'écologie.
So when we're talking about healthcare, education, industry, ecology,
Quelques jours après la sortie du 6e rapport du GIEC, on a
several days after the publishing of the latest GIEC ecology report,
tous une part à donner. C'est ça.
we
ce-
all have something that we need to give.
Travail sur le terrain. C'est aussi
We'll
ça.
continue the work on the terrain. This is my new method.
Là, faut le faire.
Now, this text is difficult. We had to do it.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Je suis sûr qu'on saura s'unir, se réunir pour l'avenir du pays.
I'm sure we will be able to unite for the future of the country.
J'en suis convaincu.
I'm convinced of that.
Président.
Thank you, Macron. Thank you. All right, there you go. That was the whole interview. We did it. We made it, and on time too, because I have something at 9. Trained medical staff shortages are everywhere. There are many more old people than young. Baby boomer generation, impossible task, in my opinion. Well, in France, it's exacerbated by a lot of fundamental issues with the way healthcare has been functioning in France in the first place. The problem with healthcare in France when it comes to this stuff is that France has limited the amount of new doctors that could come that could be certified every year for the past like 30-40 years. And that amount is too small. It's just too small. We needed to certify more doctors. It's been a big problem in the French system. So it's like being exacerbated in France compared to other countries. But you're right. It's also more of a universal problem for sure. Take some from us. We would love to. We would love to, Greek Mango. So glad that people in France are focused on substantive issues and not the low IQ SJW social issues that we worry about in America. I'm not sure you would necessarily be that. I don't know. I'm not big on class essentialism personally. I think class essentialism is an ideological red herring just because it feels good. It's like, yes, I can dismiss all those uncomfortable things about systemic racism and inequalities and all those things and just talk about class and socioeconomics because that's like easy and simple. It's easy and simple. It doesn't resolve all the problems, no. Not sure if that's where you're coming from, but it sounds like that's where you're coming from. Why not just take a chunk of money and say this is a medical dessert fund? It will be used to fund school and wages for doctors and desserts, and only use the interest on the fund. I like looking at countries that have national like sovereign funds. I do wish France had gone that route years ago, building a sovereign fund. Yeah, the countries that have sovereign funds are able to finance projects much more easily. There's a lot less of this like waffling about concerning debt and deficit and balancing budgets, etc. It's more like, hey, we got like fucking billions of dollars that are making like hundreds of millions in interest per year. We can just do whatever the fuck we wanted, right? I was attacked by someone in Twitch for being a female that used to play volleyball and didn't talk about trans women. Huh. Yeah, I think, to be fair, I do think that you can be pro-trans rights and be skeptical of trans athlete participation in competitive sports. I think that's a fair stance to take. But yeah, some people will call you a transphobe for taking that stance. That is true. But I think that's stupid. I like if there's a difference between the fundamental trans rights and the trans athletics. Ice cream fund, exactly. If class essentialism was true, there'd be no racist wealthy people. Yeah, pretty much. Or like you can turn it around upside down. If class essentialism was true, then wealthy people would not suffer from racism, but they still do. If he were really Giga Chad, he would name it the Macron Fund and invest it in French manufacturing and use the dividends on medical funding. That would be fucking based. But that would be like a 20, 30, 50-year project to raise the capital, like to raise like the interest and economy to a point where the money can actually, like just create interest. I think it's too late. I honestly think it's too late. Nowadays, the only countries that have sovereign funds are countries that have immense natural resources. Insane natural resources. We're talking about the best examples are Norway's sovereign fund and like the Saudi, Qatari, those countries have national sovereign funds. They were funded by petroleum oil. That's how you do it. And now many countries that have resources did not use them to create sovereign funds. And I think historically speaking, that probably was a huge mistake. But it is what it is. If you don't have all that like free money coming in, I don't see a path to building a sovereign fund. The only thing you can do is I'm more of a believer in kind of like modern monetary theory of like spending money into the economy, investing it into the economy so that the economy grows, and then you get that interest back through taxes, and you make that money back through taxes. So it's kind of the same principle of investing to make money. But it's just the classic way governments work. You invest into the country, and you get the money back through. That's not modern monetary theory. That's Keynes. Oh, right. Modern monetary theory is specifically with deficit spending. But like I kind of conflate the two. But you're right to call me out on it. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's Keynesian economics. But yeah, so you're basically getting that money back through extracting the interest back through taxes. So we can reinvest it and so on and so forth. Alberta and Canada could have had a sovereign fund, but they were dumb. That's a common story. No, that's not modern monetary theory either. Wait, modern monetary theory is about debt, right? Okay, fuck. I need to review my definitions. I'm sorry. Modern monetary theory is some weird shit. Okay, maybe I got my definitions wrong. I'm sorry. God, political streamer doesn't know what he's talking about. Newsflash at 8. I apologize. I'll you know what? I'll write it down as being I'll write it down as my my next personal free time research thing. Make sure I got the right definitions on that. Don't want to be caught red-handed. Assuming people do pay taxes. I actually am impressed with the move to arm the IRS now. What do you think? It's super fucking based, okay? I don't know about the US statistics, but here in France, the every single euro invested into the French tax service is like paid back, I think, with like 300% at the moment. Every single bit of money they have extra in order to pursue tax fraud, they get that money back threefold or it's the last time I looked at the stats. It's crazy. It's a crazy good investment for any government. Especially if you couple it with patching up like tax havens and like tax evasion, like legal tax evasion strategies. If you don't couple it with tax evasion strategies, you kind of do end up mostly taxing poor people more, because rich people will like legally not pay taxes. So it should be accompanied with a little bit of propping up the richer people's taxation is the only criticism I would bring. The term modern monetary theory was coined by Australian economist Bill Mitchell in the early 90s. However, some of the ideas are based on earlier themes in Keynesian economics. Ideas around MMT were developed by economists Bill Mitchell, Warren Mosler, and Randall Wray as early as 1992 through email listservs. I don't trust your mod. However, some of the ideas are based on I know it's connected to Keynesian economics. I know I'm not like completely out there, like completely fucking saying. I know I'm not completely like delusional about it, but yeah, I need to I need to like make sure I have the right definition, because I'm not confident in it. And not being confident is the worst thing for like a political streamer. You can be wrong, but if you're confidently wrong, then that's like so much better. It even happened earlier, right? I knew that the retirement system in France is deficitary, but I wasn't confident because the guy brought up this like study, and I hadn't done all the research leading up to this discussion. So I like kind of just caught up on the research live on stream. And yeah, like lost half my viewers to like that research session. But I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I did. Now I'm feeling more confident once again about like what I thought was right. Anyways, everyone, I have a little gaming session in 10 minutes, which is why I went for like an earlier stream today. I'm glad we had the time to finish going through the whole interview. That is really cool. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to, because there was a lot of commentary and some derailing with chat and all those cool things. So let's see who are we going to raid out into for tonight. I'm not seeing any of my fellow gaming. Yeah, but I'm not going to stream it. It's with a group of friends. We're not streaming that game. I'm sorry. Maybe later on. I'm definitely going to be doing some gaming streaming later this week, like tomorrow or after tomorrow. I plan on doing some. We don't have. Okay, YOLO Bongan stuff. Yeah, whatever. I didn't want to watch anyways. YOLO Bongan stuff. Where's Couchman? Y'all are the big political Andy frogs in my chat. Oh my fucking god, that scared me. What are we? Who are we rating? Do you have any suggestions? Like, let me just look at the politics section real quick. Who should I raid? The Young Turks? Oh god, no. Let's see, are there any names I recognize here? Scatter before the raids quick. I find one logical political streamer in Twitch, and he wants to abandon. No, I'm not abandoning. I always cover politics on stream and social events and culture events, etc., etc. I always do that, but I also game. I also game. I'm also a bit of a variety streamer. I also sometimes do react streams. But the main focus is still going to be politics, Rick Mango. Most of the time you tune in, it's still going to be that. Hassan and Logic don't go together, yeah. Yeah, I actually don't know who to raid. I don't know. I've seen Karalius, lol. Okay, I have no clue who he is, but oh, wait, that's Lithuanian. Wait, that's in Lithuanian, so there's no way we can actually, we cannot raid him. James from the internet. Who is that? I know I've seen him on panels.
For our whole life, he's fourth generation. Yeah, why don't you ask how they got here? Fourth generation.
I've seen him on panels, but I don't know like what's his orientation. Former journalist and field live streamer discussing news, politics, and economics from a left perspective.
On how we're talking about these trans people are an abomination.
Oh, I can raid Watch Me Forever. Yeah, I could.
Friends with black people, and I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, like this is actually working. Like, there
Yeah.
are
Yeah,
people
whatever.
that
I'm
have
I'm
this whole thing now.
There was a huge push post Charlottesville, actually.
I'm banned from James from the internet. He's like a lefty miasma light. Wait, really? I thought he was somewhat moderate.
Diversify various fashion
My bad.
movements, especially in the wake of
Shit.
Charlottesville.
I guess we're not rating then. That's fine too.
Right.
I set it so that it's 30 seconds because otherwise, yeah. And then the pre-rolls, I've disabled the pre-roll thing.
Anyways, thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. Tomorrow I have is my mother's birthday. So honestly, I might not stream tomorrow, exceptionally, because I usually stream on evenings. So I might not stream tomorrow evening. However, let's just stream Mr. Geek if you want to watch him like nerd out to some stuff. But yeah, so tomorrow I might do an early stream, but probably not. And then Friday I'm streaming, and then next week is going to be special. Next week I'm going to be on the ski vacation, which means I'm going to be streaming, but I'm going to be IRL streaming from the mountains. So it's going to be much earlier in the day, and it's not going to be as much political content. It's going to be like skiing, going down in the snow, walking through the mountains. It's going to be a lot of nature, a lot of beautiful scenery. It's not going to be a lot of politics. But after that, it's going to be back to my regularly scheduled content. So it's just going to be like one special week. Hey, if you enjoy that, please do in the Alps. Yeah, it's going to be in the Alps. So yeah, please tune in when that happens. It's going to be in the most of those streams are going to be in the afternoon. So yeah, I'm gonna try streaming as much of that as I can, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So so definitely do tune in for that if you want to see some more like IRL stuff. All right. With all that, thank you for watching. My French stereotype of the Alps work. It's like the only place you can go skiing in France. I guess in the Pyrenees maybe, but there's not that many like skiable mountains in France either. All right. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Love you all. See Friday then, most certainly. Friday 100%. Bye.